Your dad, who just eats oats, loves to tell stories. If he ate bunches of oats, maybe he'd have more than 3 of them that he tells over and over. Yes, Dad, what your friend Squeaky did back in '88 is hilarious. But maybe instead of telling us about it again, you could grab a bowl of delicious, nutritious Honey Bunches of Oats. Don't just eat oats, eat bunches of oats. Honey Bunches of Oats.
Now's the time for a great deal on a new Honda. It's time to take an adventure with rugged capability and commanding style. Check out the Honda Ridgeline, Pilot, Passport, or CR-V. For a limited time, well-qualified buyers can get a 1.99% APR on a 2025 Ridgeline or a 3.99% APR on a 2025 Pilot, 2026 Passport, or 2025 CR-V.
See dealer for financing details.
Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting exclusive offer just for you. For a limited time, you can get a free Pocket Pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just text WATER to 64,000. That's WATER to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. WATER to 64,000.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Pocket Hose. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at pockethose.com/terms.
You have to control yourself!
And welcome back to Horror Queers. We're talking We Left You Sleeping, Now We're Sleeping With You. We're talking Rage Virus. And we're talking not the Sandra Bullock film. And I'm Joe.
And I'm Trace, and we're talking Staying Alive is as good as it gets.
Oh boy, this is definitely one of those movies where I say I would be taking Jim's parents' route because I don't want to live in this world.
It's so funny that we're covering this like so soon after The Last of Us. And everyone, yes, we are discussing Danny Boyle's 28 Days Later to celebrate the release of 28 years later, coming, 23 years after this film?
Yeah, I looked up the math and thought, man, they couldn't wait, could they? But also, I'm not sad about it.
Could we wait 5 more? I guess this was one of those things where we never thought this movie was ever going to happen.
No. And folks, you can probably hear us speculate that we didn't ever really think it was going to happen because we have definitely covered the intermediary film as an audio commentary over on Patreon. So if you want to hear our thoughts on 28 weeks later, it is already available.
Yes. And Joe, do you remember, or I guess, did you experience this similarly to I did? Because I remember this movie was like a phenomenon. Yes. My parents were talking. I mean, my dad's not a surprise, but my mom wanted to go see this movie.
Wow. Yeah, I've got a bit of a weird personal history with it because this movie came out when I was living in a house with 4 other college roommates. We had moved off campus. We were living together for a couple of years, and they all went to see this movie as a group, and I was working 2 weeks of overnight at Staples. I was a temporary hire who had to come in and basically remove all of the shit that had been stuck where the price tags were around the entire store because they were flipping and renovating it. So I was this kind of random crew of 5 guys who came in, and we worked from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. for 2 weeks. So I basically went to work while all of my roommates watched this movie, and then they woke me up in the morning and said, that movie was the fucking shit and you missed out.
That's so funny because I did get to watch this when it came out. I didn't get to see it in theaters because it was still
it's a little young for you.
Well, yeah, I was 14, I think, when this hit theaters, because even though it's 2002, I don't think it came to the States till 2003. But
right.
But it was interesting. So my across the street neighbors rented it, and my dad was like, "Oh, cool, can you let us borrow it after that?" And we're like, "Yeah," because we had VHS tapes or DVDs or something.
Yeah.
And the neighbors came back and they were like, it was kind of boring.
What?
And I think, no, here's the thing though. Like, I watched this with my mom and my dad, and all of us were like, this is kind of boring. And
God.
But I think it's because, at least for me, my 13, 14-year-old dad was like, I wanted a motherfucking zombie film. And this is, look, y'all, we're not going to get pedantic about the infected or zombies, whatever the fuck.
I have no time or patience for it.
I do not care. I do not care at all. But the zombies, the infected, are not the focus of this film. This is very much what does society look like if a zombie apocalypse happens and you occasionally run into a zombie?
Yeah, it's interesting. I was prepping for this and reflecting back on the conversation that we had about Sunshine, because I think we even mentioned that this is the other movie in Danny Boyle's oeuvre where people say, I like part of this movie, but then it becomes the other thing and I don't like it anymore, because we hit, I want to say, just over the hour mark, and basically the infected become supporting characters, and it is all about this military group. And I think for a lot of folks, that was a very difficult transition to negotiate.
Well, and I'm going to, truthfully, I don't know if I have rewatched this since I saw it back in 2004, like circa 2004. And
okay, so it's been quite a while.
It's been a while. And again, I remember being like, okay, I get it, it's a respectable movie, blah, blah, blah. But I still had it in my mind, like, oh, I was really bored by that. And I remembered the last act. I did not remember the sex slavery stuff, although I actually think that maybe I wasn't putting that together when I saw it the first time. Like, I don't remember, truthfully, but
it's entirely possible, right? Because sometimes I think if you're not actually paying super close attention to how the men are reacting to the women, because there's a bunch of gendered violence throughout this entire movie, like Boke's content warning for very heavily implied nearly there sexual assault, especially in the last act of this film. But like, women and men's relationships are definitely a secondary theme of this entire film.
Absolutely. And I will say, I liked this a lot more, again, going off of my 14-year-old self as a comparison. But like,
as is usually the case.
I like this a lot more in a rewatch. And I think also because I knew what to expect going in. But that actually makes me really happy that, your friends were saying how awesome it was. Because, I didn't have that experience with a lot of people that were surrounding me at the time. A lot of people surrounding me did think this was a boring movie.
That is wild. Yeah, I think for a lot of folks, which is very funny because this movie completely changed the game when it came to zombies, right? Like, you're going to tell us a little bit about it. I've got a bit of a game, but I think for a lot of folks, this felt like a huge breath of fresh air. This isn't Romero zombies. This isn't direct-to-video shit. This is, we're doing zombies, but not calling them zombies, but also we're doing it in a different kind of way. And I'm not just talking fast zombies, because yes, that is the other thing we associate with the movie, but it feels like this is a film that really takes the baton that Romero started with and says, the zombies are not the point. It's about the sociology and like the culture behind them. What do they actually represent? Because you're not wrong. This movie at its heart is implicitly not that interested in the infected. No,
not at all. It's about how we react to the infected, or the larger scale of it. I just remember this too. The way that I first heard about this movie, I think it might have been a review in Entertainment Weekly, but whatever review it was, definitely pointed out that Cillian Murphy goes full frontal in this thing.
Oh yeah, there's so much dick and butt in this movie.
Lots of dick, and I was like, from there, I was like, well, I have to see this movie.
Who, me? Watching this horror film, this very respectable horror film, and it's an international, it's like an import. I'm so sophisticated. Yeah. Definitely not here for the opening shots of dick.
Absolutely. And they're not even like close. Well, we can talk about the way the movie looks too, because I was curious to see how you felt about this, because it does feel like it hasn't aged particularly well, because it is so almost DTV, huh? Yes. And I'll go more into detail about it, but this is the thing where like I knew to expect this going in because this movie hasn't been available on streaming up until recently for a very long time.
It's wild. It's like, do you not want to make money off of your film? People have been begging for this movie to be available for ages.
Oh, absolutely. And I am not like a technical person in any shape, way, or form, but I remember reading a lot of people saying, well, it might be though because in this like high definition 4K like screen world, this movie is going to look like absolute horseshit.
Right. I kind of feel like that's part of its charm, though. I'm not going to lie.
I do. And truthfully, none of it really bothers me. I mean, this is a grainy. It's not out of focus. It's pixelated almost in parts.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I wasn't bothered by it except for like long shots where you can't even make out like the facial features of a person. You can just make out the shape of a person. I was like, I don't like that. But
yeah, I'm curious, not to get ahead of ourselves, but do you have any kind of budgetary information? Like, was that a factor about why Danny Boyle shot it in a particular way? No, this was the aesthetic he was going for.
It was the aesthetic. And the budget we're looking at is about $8 million, by the way.
Oh, okay. So yeah, there's no reason. This was a deliberate choice. Got it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's dive into this. And happy to report, thank you Inverse in 2023 for doing an oral history of 28 Days Later.
Folks, you have no idea how much Trace loves an oral history. He has been talking about them more frequently when he talks about his sources. But I mean, my God, he will now message me and be like, I found an oral history. Yes.
It's just really fun because they group up a bunch of people involved with the film. Although it's always really surprising who like they don't get, you know. Like
I know.
Like I'm sure it's always a scheduling thing, but like I don't think Cillian Murphy was in this, so it's like
wild.
They get the girl that plays Hannah, and that's about it.
Okay.
But okay, so 28 Days Later, again directed by Danny Boyle, but written by Alex Garland. So
there it is.
Let's start with him. Before writing and directing such acclaimed films as Ex Machina, Annihilation, Men, and maybe kind of Men, and Civil War.
I was going to say, see previous episodes, right?
But Garland started out as a novelist, with his first one being the 1996 novel The Beach, which was adapted into a film in the year 2000, starring Leonardo DiCaprio and directed by Danny Boyle.
Yes. I've never seen it. Have you seen it?
I've never seen it either, and I didn't know Tilda Swinton was in it, and I all I knew was that it was like not really well received. But
I don't think it was quite what people were expecting, but you also have to remember that it's the first movie that one Mr. DiCaprio makes after drowning in the ocean.
Yeah, exactly. But I remember it didn't get great reviews. I remember I couldn't see it because it was rated R. But I think the key here, though, and I tried to look up why it was poorly received without doing too much of a deep dive, and it seems to be that a lot of the themes of the novel were kind of glossed over in the film in favor of just like plot beat replication.
Okay.
And I think it's important to note that Garland did not write the screenplay for The Beach, which I don't have any evidence of.
I always thought he had. That's so wild.
He did not. And I think that may have instigated his move into screenwriting.
Interesting. Okay.
So this brings us to 28 Days Later. Garland is or was a big fan of the horror genre, and specifically the zombie subgenre, having grown up on Romero's Night and Dawn of the Dead, or Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead. God, why did they remove the living from that? That's weird. Anyway. But he says, you know, at a point in time, he had entirely forgotten about, like, the zombie subgenre. I'm assuming maybe it's because of the doldrums of early 90s horror, where we weren't getting a lot of zombie films. Even that remake of Night of the Living Dead, I don't think did very well commercially, so...
Right. Yeah, we were definitely in a drought, which is part of the reason that this movie does hit so hard, because it felt not just fresh, but also, we haven't had a huge mainstream zombie film in a while.
Well, and here's the thing. Here's what got him to remember the zombie subgenre. He picked up a video game in 1996 by the name of Resident Evil.
Never heard of it.
While playing the game, he noted that the terror came not from the zombies because they were so slow-moving and really easy to escape, even in the cramped corners of the mansion. The terror came from the scarcity of ammo, because if you have one bullet, you can't fucking survive. So he thought to himself, well, what if the zombies moved as fast as the dogs? I love that, though. Like, I love that Resident Evil got this guy to make 28 Days Later.
You know what? Art is never made in a vacuum. We are always influenced by the things that are happening around us in our lives and in the world.
Mm-hmm. Now, he writes what Danny Boyle calls a very lean script. Garland, funnily enough, calls it a very derivative script. Like, it's not like self-deprecating necessarily. It's just more like, look, there's not much like new to this outside of the zombies.
And yet I feel like a bunch of people would disagree with that statement.
Well, he says the influences of Resident Evil and specifically the 1963 sci-fi horror film The Day of the Triffids are very, very apparent. Like, I've never seen or read Day of the Triffids, but I did look up something like for instance, the protagonist in that film misses out on an apocalyptic event because he spends the night in a hospital.
Yeah.
So, which, by the way, though, now I want to watch Day of the Triffids because that just sounds cool.
I've heard very good things about it.
I like plant horror, so there you go.
You know what? We always have an Earth Day every fucking year.
We do. Now, Danny Boyle is not a fan of zombie films, but
okay.
He read Garland's script, and okay, so this is weird. So his main takeaway, he was like, it's a thing where someone's reading a horror script and they're like, oh, but what is it besides horror? You know, how can I elevate this a little bit? And he says, oh, I noticed that this was a film about rage. And I love this. Garland's like, I didn't necessarily think of it that way, but I mean, sure. And I'm like, well, yeah, if it gets Boyle to make the movie, let him think it's about rage.
Sure. Yeah. You're seeing zombies, but just imagine it's rage instead.
So that's what got Boyle on board. And I think he also just wanted to work with Garland, you know, because I'm sure they collaborated a bit on The Beach. But
right. Now, can I ask you a year question? Because one of the things that people like to do is associate this film as a response to 9/11, but this is all happening before the attacks.
It's happening during the attacks.
Okay.
Yeah, and yes, I'll go into that in a minute. But Boyle brings in producer Andrew McDonald, who had produced his previous film Shallow Grave, Trainspotting, The Beach, and has him like shop it around. But for some reason, like Universal Pictures has a first look deal either with Boyle or with McDonald, or maybe it's like a pair thing. But they passed. Oh. I know. It eventually found itself over at Fox Searchlight, the art house indie subset of 20th Century Fox, back when it was still called 20th Century Fox. I think it's just called Searchlight Pictures now.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. But one of the very first things that Boyle wanted to do was lock in the look of the film.
Okay.
For that, he turned to cinematographer Anthony Dodd Mantle, who would go on to become Boyle's go-to collaborator, including this year's 28 Years Later.
I like it when we bring back the same people.
Yep. But Boyle had recently seen the 1998 Danish black comedy The Celebration, which was shot by Mantle, and he loved the way that he operated and moved the camera in the film. Now, I haven't seen The Celebration, so I don't know exactly. I can only go off of 28 Days Later, but in his words, it was a unique, disruptive force to conventional filmmaking, and that's what he wanted in 28 Days Later. So, I mean, because honestly, I think you could be forgiven for sometimes thinking this film is a found footage film.
A little bit, yeah. Like, if you told me someone was actually operating this camera and it was a video camera within the world, like the diegetic world of the film, I would believe you.
Well, but here's the thing. It wasn't just the way the camera moved. They wanted to change the way that film normally looked. And for that, they started researching cameras before landing on the Canon XL1 digital video camera, aka a regular consumer camera that you probably pulled a sticker off of when you were working at Radio Shack.
My God. Okay, so we went very lo-fi.
That's the thing. So, and I remember when this was coming out, like that was a big talking point in a lot of the reviews and articles. It was like, oh yeah, this was filmed with a camera you can just buy at your local like electronics store.
Steven Soderbergh wishes.
I know. Truly, right?
I say that having not seen Sex, Lies, and Videotape, which I don't know if that was also filmed. But I mean, I joke because Steven Soderbergh loves to do things on like the iPhone and so on.
Yeah, well, I believe that's what we're doing with 28 Years Later. I think it's all shot on iPhones.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So that meant, though, that the image quality was inferior to pretty much anything else being made at the time, and certainly inferior to anything being made today. But both Mantle and Boyle were fascinated with this kind of brittle, savage, hectic ability that the digital shutter had to capture movement both well and not well. So they thought it would help them create, in their words, this kind of demonic atmosphere.
I truthfully do not get demonic, but I do get the kind of rough around the edges. Like, it does have that almost abrasive vibe to it, which does embody the rage-filled world that we now live in.
Sure. And I agree with you. I don't really get demonic from this either. I just get frantic. I mean, truthfully, like, a lot of this world is very frantic, even though there's not that many characters in this movie.
Right. I will say maybe the one exception is the way the red eyes pop. Like, when we see the infected peering through mostly the back windshield of this cab in various scenes, it is like red.
Yeah, and they had to have an optometrist or an ophthalmologist on set with those contacts because they were apparently enormous.
No, I hate the thick contact stories.
I know. It just, oh God, it hurts me every time.
It hurts my eyes.
Yeah, I know, my eyes. I'm like, So
we want to be actors.
For the actors, they went with relative unknowns because they wanted to preserve the suspension of disbelief. So, like, Cillian Murphy at this point, he had only starred primarily in small independent films. Naomi Harris, as a child, was in a British television series.
Okay.
Megan Burns, who plays Hannah, had only one previous film credit, whereas Christopher Eccleston and Brendan Gleeson, like, they were well-known character actors. So that, I mean...
it's like when you make a YA movie, you round out a lot of the big supporting roles with well-known, recognizable actors, but you cast most of your leads as unknown folks because A, it's cheaper, but also B, the audience isn't... It's that... is it the Schumacher thing or somebody else where they don't want the audience to bring all of the baggage?
The baggage. Oh, I think it's Schumacher. I mean, well, it's funny because I feel like we talked to
it was like 5 different directors in one stretch where like, they just kept saying, I don't like stars.
Yeah,
and you're like,
Kubrick
I get it. Yes, it was Kubrick. Was the other one.
But also, Christopher Eccleston apparently had like signed on for a certain pay rate, and when the production ran out of money, he had to take an emergency pay cut when funds ran out.
Oh, dear.
I know. Okay, so the filming, though. So the scenes on the deserted Westminster Bridge, which I think are probably some of the most like iconic imagery in this film, they were shot over the course of 4 days in July of 2001.
Right.
But the official filming start of a 9-week shoot wasn't starting until September 1st, 2001.
Okay.
So, after 9/11, the attitudes of pretty much any London official changed, saying, we can't help you with this. So, It's actually a minor miracle that they did all the bridge stuff in July, because if they had done it after 9/11, they wouldn't have been able to do it after 9/11.
Yeah, I found a couple of different retrospective pieces, and that was the most common thing that came out of every single article, was they said this movie literally could not have been made, or they would have had to jettison all of those scenes for something else had they just delayed production even a couple weeks.
Well, and thank God it's a film shooting in the UK, because what if it was filming in America?
I mean, it just would have been a no-go.
Yeah, exactly. That wasn't all bad, though. What was bad was, as I said, they ran out of money before filming completed.
Oh boy, one of these.
Yeah, so one day, like, the producer just goes out to them and goes, we don't have any more money. The crew packs up and leaves with an unfinished movie. Like,
okay, no money, goodbye.
They had up until the car crashes through the gates at the Soldier's Mansion during that freeze frame.
Oh, wait, are they filming it chronologically as well then?
I don't know if they're filming it chronologically, but they definitely did have the ending for last.
Okay, so they had the majority of it and they were this close, but they still need more money.
Yes. So, okay, they eventually, like... I couldn't really figure out the exact order of things, but what I have is they subsequently shot one ending that Garland had wrote. It took place in a hospital, and so I guess maybe they stopped production and then they had Garland like write an ending, and then maybe they came back to do something that was going to be like cheap on the fly.
Okay.
But it took place in a hospital. Jim dies while Selena and Hannah run off into the world. Who knows what happens to them? Like, what's going on? They did put this on the movie and test screen it, and it screened very badly. Like,
of course, you can't kill Jim after all of this. Come on.
Well, literally, there's like 3 alternate endings for this film, and every single one of them ends with Jim dying.
I mean, if we're being honest, it makes the most sense given what we know of the world and where Jim gets shot. But also, if you want your movie to make money, you can't kill Jim.
Yeah, I guess so. But either way, in Boyle's words, like it wasn't like it didn't just test really badly, but like really emphasis on really
as in
badly.
tank the film.
Yes, like it was that bad. And so at this, Fox said, okay, you know what? Here's a bunch of money.
Okay, you know what? Nothing says call the studio's bluff like bad test screenings.
Yes. And again, most of the time when we bring this up, it doesn't work out in the film's favor. No. In this one, it does. So it was decided that the new ending was going to be the one that we got, you know, with the jet and the big letters made of sheets and clothes and whatever. But I love this. The issue sprung up. The cost of a CGI jet was about £70,000, and they didn't have that money. But it was cheaper to just hire an actual jet themselves. So they did.
Yeah. I mean, you said CGI jet, and I thought, that doesn't look like CGI, but okay.
Oh, no, it's a real jet. Like, it's a totally real jet, because the CGI one costs more.
I mean, sometimes you should just go for authenticity then. You don't always need to go with shitty CGI that's going to break the bank.
I'll do the endings right now just so we don't have to do them at the end. But basically, like on the DVD, if you can still find it, there's 3 alternate endings. Again, all of them have Jim dying. One of them, Jim dies of his gunshot wounds in the hospital. One, Jim dreams of the accident that left him in a coma as he dies from his gunshot wounds.
Okay.
The third, which was not filmed, only storyboarded. This was a very different. I hate this actually. Instead of Frank, Brendan Gleeson's character, being killed by soldiers after being infected, the other survivors tie him up and discover a research lab at the blockade. Oh, no, it's not even done. Where Jim undergoes a blood transfusion in order to save Frank.
No. Yeah, that's so stupid.
It's really dumb. But here's the thing, though. I even remember when I first watched this, thinking that the ending was kind of underwhelming because it doesn't. Right. But I guess it's the thing, you know, you expect like a big zombie fight and it's like, oh, the zombies are just starving to death. Okay.
I do kind of like it, to be honest.
I actually think it's really subversive.
Here's the thing. We were used to a certain kind of thing, so I can understand if people may have watched this originally and said, oh, well, this isn't really doing what I was kind of hoping or expecting. It's that expectation game. But yeah, you're right. I think that this is quietly subversive because we always think, oh, well, the zombies aren't like us, so they could outlast, you know, we've seen them in the snow and they just reanimate when it gets warm or so on. And yeah, it feels like this film just sort of says, oh, no, in some ways they are living creatures. They still need to be able to survive.
Well, and honestly, I'm so glad we're covering this so soon after covering season 2 of The Last of Us on Patreon, because I feel like there were more than a couple times where you referenced 28 Days Later, and looking at this film, I'm kind of like, oh yeah, you can really see the influences of this on The Last of Us.
Indeed. Well, actually, Trace, that is a fantastic segue that I swear, folks, I did not set him up for, but let's play a game.
I want to play a game. The rules are simple. What you have to do is sit here and talk to me.
All right, so that was your freebie, so it's now off the table, but I would like you to list at least 3 titles that we have covered that are obviously influenced by either the Fast Zombies or just 28 Days Later generally. And the sequel is off the table.
Okay, well, definitely Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead.
Yes.
Think something we've covered. Jesus Christ.
Okay, I'll give you Last of Us. You can have that back.
Wait. Is Zombieland 2 one of them?
Correct.
Okay, because it's like we didn't cover Zombieland, but Zombieland 2. I don't know. What's the third one?
The Girl with All the Gifts.
Oh, fuck. I should have fucking known that.
That's the hardest one. It's the one that probably didn't come to most people's minds because, unfortunately, a lot of people still have not seen that. And even our downloads attest to that. God. Which is funny because, folks, if you like this movie, you should be watching The Girl with All the Gifts because it feels very indebted to it.
It's really good, too, honestly.
Yeah.
Big recommend on Girl with All the Gifts, for sure.
Oh, yeah. And we've got that great episode with Carolyn. So
yes, we do. Okay. So, 28 Days Later opens in the UK on November 1st, 2002, before making its way across the pond to open in North America on June 27th, 2003.
Yeah, that delay, I think, also helped it financially because there were a lot of really good buzz and press. Like, the movie had done so well, it felt like in North America, we were salivating for it.
Because also, we North Americans aren't used to getting a film after everyone else. And
True, they were so entitled.
Especially horror fans, where it's like, wait a minute, this like horror film that's like making even like legit critics like it. Like, what is this movie?
Yeah.
But then again, as I said, even like regular non-horror fans wanted to see this movie because of all the buzz around it. So
yeah.
Weirdly enough, though, it opens up against fellow new release Charlie's Angels Full Throttle.
Ooh.
I know, that's definitely what I saw in theaters that weekend.
Of course it was, yes.
But for that North American release, it opened in 1,200 theaters and the number 4 spot with $10 million. And
pretty good for a foreign film, let's be real.
Oh, and it's already broken its budget, which it already had done by this point.
Yeah. It made so much money in the UK.
Yeah. So it goes on to gross $45 million domestically, adding to the $37 million it made overseas, for a worldwide total of $82 million against a budget of $8 million.
Wild. I wonder, what was that original studio that said pass?
Universal.
I wonder how much. I wonder if Universal just kind of looks at these box office shits. Oh, fucking hell.
But I imagine, though, that that's something that happens all the time in Hollywood, you know? Because people pass on things all the time, and you're all... I can't even imagine the stress. Not to, like, pity studio executives, mind you, they're rich and whatever, but like the stress of like, is this going to be the next big thing, or is it just a pile of shit that I'm looking at, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think, not that I love the series, but Apple TV's The Studio with Seth Rogen does a pretty good job of capturing some of the anxieties about, okay, I want to work with big name people, but also I want to make real, you know, audience friendly blockbusters, but also I want to make indie films and so on. But, you know, what is a good investment or return? And it sometimes feels like a crapshoot.
A little bit, yeah. So I love the idea of being like the tastemaker for movies, but then I'm also like, I feel like I'd hate it, honestly, after a certain period of time.
I mean, here's the thing. You are a tastemaker for movies, not just with this podcast, but with your programming for your Terror Tuesdays and Weird Wednesdays. But the stakes, or the stress, rather, are kind of reduced, right? Because you don't have to green light it. You just get to say, oh, that movie that you've maybe never heard of, that was a huge, colossal flaw. Yeah, I'm going to make you watch it.
Yeah, my money and shareholders' money is not at stake in my taste-making abilities.
True. Yeah.
So, reviews for this film were very positive. We're looking at 87% on Rotten Tomatoes, whereas Letterboxd users have awarded it a 7.6 out of 10.
Okay, yeah.
Uh-huh. And yeah, I mean, really just kickstarted a resurgence of zombie films, many of which, especially Zack Snyder's 2004 remake of Dawn of the Dead, were directly influenced by this film. But I mean, you can also look at, to continue your game of things we have not covered, Shaun of the Dead, I Am Legend, World War Z, Warm Bodies, and of course, the seemingly never-ending The Walking Dead.
Indeed. Yeah. I debated whether to not make it about episodes that we had done and just in general kind of properties that had been informed by it. But it's interesting because even when you go back and look at some of those, it's just the resurgence and popularity of zombies. Like, several of those go back to slow zombies. Yeah, definitely always political commentary in terms of what do they represent or how do people react to them and so on. But it was interesting that we don't just see a complete shift to fast zombies. There's still a bunch of slow zombies out there.
Yeah, but what I also find interesting, because, you know, whenever we talk about the 2000s, we're like, okay, it's a decade in horror marked by two very specific trends. And it's...
Right. We don't talk about the zombies.
We talk about, like, remake / J-horror and torture porn. Like, that's... And then, like, the shift into, like, found footage at the end of the decade. But, yeah, we never talk about the zombie boom. And it was there.
It was 100% there. And what's wild is, I couldn't remember if the zombies in The Walking Dead were fast, which just kind of goes to show you how much I have moved on from that series. I was so all in on that first season, which is often why I speak of it somewhat derisively now, because I just got really burnt out by it and all of the sequels and so on. But if you remember that first episode, like the supersized pilot that we did, it has the exact same opening as this, where Rick gets shot and then he wakes up and he has been in the hospital.
Right.
And he has missed the entire outbreak.
Yeah, like dead inside, don't open, painted on that door, like something like that.
Betcha.
Yeah, I gave up on Walking Dead halfway through season 3 and never looked back.
Yeah, I know it still has its very passionate defenders, and I think some people really like some of those sequels and spin-offs and all that kind of stuff.
The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon, The Book of Carol.
Some of the names are a wee bit convoluted, but fan favorite characters. So,
okay. Before I pass it over to you, Joe, just to remark on the availability of this film, because I was trying to figure out why. Like,
it's
why?
Gotta be a rights thing, right?
Yeah. So, but that's the thing, though. So much of it is just like, yeah, it's a rights thing, but that's really all they tell you. So,
yeah. Okay. So no one wants to make money off of it, right? Jesus.
So okay. It remained unavailable on streaming sites for years due to, again, quote unquote, rights issues. The film was originally distributed, again, by Searchlight Pictures, formerly Fox Searchlight, which officially became a subsidiary of Disney in 2019.
Right.
And soon after that, so I guess maybe it was available on streaming before that, but after the Disney merger, it was no longer available to find.
So Disney has struck again, is what you're saying.
Well, yeah, even on Disney-owned streaming sites, it wasn't there. And so this is, again, I saw a thing that was like, this indicates that the company might have lost the rights to distribute it. But like, that it wasn't an official answer. But Disney also stopped producing copies, like physical copies of 28 Days Later. So the only way you could watch this movie since like 2019 is if you still had your early 2000s era DVD or Blu-ray.
Right, which I do, thankfully.
I don't think I ever bought it, but like those copies were selling for like anywhere from $100 to $200 at thrift stores. So in February of 2024, it was announced that the producer, Andrew McDonald, bought the rights to the film back from Searchlight Pictures, and he promptly sold those rights, as well as the rights to future sequels, to Sony, which is the company distributing 28 Years Later.
Yeah. And Sony likes to make money, so...
Yeah, I'm just a little surprised that like Disney didn't want to keep their hands on this, but
well, Disney has made some very unusual decisions. Like, let's not forget that the reason that it's really hard to do repertory screenings is because Disney has put the kibosh on their titles, and by extension, a lot of the titles in the Fox catalog. So outside of some very specific ones, they basically have said, we don't want you to see films that we have effectively put back in the vault.
Oh, maybe that's it. Maybe it is. They're, okay, we're going to keep this away from you so that way when it comes out, you're all going to buy it. But then...
Maybe. But then where is the physical copy?
Well, yeah, because they sold the rights.
People want to buy this.
they got rid of the rights. This guy bought him back. Either way, I'm happy it's back because we're getting a new trilogy of sequels.
Oh my God. I am so excited for this. Not just because, it's always fun when something that is old comes back again, but I love that Danny Boyle has said, okay, I'm going to come back. I'm going to do the first one. I'm going to do the third one. I'm not going to lie, Trace. My excitement level is good for this forthcoming one, but I am so psyched that Nia DaCosta is doing the second one and that it comes out in fucking January of next year.
Oh, I know. Back-to-back movies, more of it, please. Would that The Last of Us had taken that to heart. But,
again, if you want to hear Trace elaborate on that, go ahead and listen to our episodes on the requel tier.
But yeah, so I saw a quote from Alex Garland saying that he actually was never really interested in doing another one because a lot of stuff in 28 Weeks Later he didn't like, and he didn't want to build a sequel off of that.
Wow. I'm not one to always use the C word, but that's a bit cunty.
I know, and I'm sure it has something to do with like, the maybe because this movie ends not definitively per se, but with like, hey, these zombies are all dying of starvation. So how do you make a sequel? You have to make the asymptomatic carriers. And I feel like that was probably a big thing he didn't like.
Yeah, it does feel like, okay, it's a workaround to get a new title off the ground, but I remember when we did that audio commentary on 28 Weeks Later, that is a movie that holds up. It's not flawless, but few films are. And I would argue that people slept on that unfairly.
Well, I think it's also because, this hits U.S. theaters in 2003. That comes out in 2007. And by that point, we had gotten Snyder's Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah, and I think we were in the height. Like, we were either into it or we were going into it where all of a sudden it felt like we were getting zombies all the time.
Well, yeah, but that's where those other, like the remake boom and the J-horror stuff and the torture porn, like those were then becoming like more. And maybe that's why we don't talk about the zombie stuff as much, because I feel like maybe its reign was shorter than the other stuff.
Maybe its reign was shorter or it was getting overshadowed by other more dominant subgenres.
Well, and then once it moved to TV, it's like, there you go. Watch your Walking Dead.
Exactly. Yeah, it's on the small screen. You don't need it on the big screen as much. Anyway, it's back.
It's back. But what happens in this movie, Joe?
Your dad, who just eats oats, loves to tell stories. If he ate bunches of oats, maybe he'd have more than 3 of them that he tells over and over. Yes, Dad, what your friend Squeaky did back in '88 is hilarious. But maybe instead of telling us about it again, you could grab a bowl of delicious, nutritious honey bunches of oats. Don't just eat oats, eat bunches of oats. Honey bunches of oats.
Now's the time for a great deal on a new Honda. It's time to drive smarter with high-tech features and excellent reliability. Check out the Honda Civic, Accord, or HR-V. For a limited time, well-qualified buyers can get a 4.99% APR on a 2025 Civic or a 3.99% APR on a 2025 Accord or HR-V.
See dealer for financing details. Exclude Civic Si and Type R.
Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting exclusive offer just for you. For a limited time, you can get a free Pocket Pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just text WATER to 64,000. That's WATER to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. WATER to 64,000.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Pocket Hose. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at pockethose.com/terms.
Okay, so we open on a montage of war and violence, and then we pull back to reveal that we are watching it on the small screen, on TVs, and this is being watched by a chimp at the Cambridge Primate Research Center. And then, almost immediately, animal activists break in, and despite the warning from a scientist played by David Schneider, the primates are let loose, and they are, in fact, infected with rage. And this woman, I'm not going to say she gets her head bitten off, but
I mean, she might as well be. Yeah, these I love it. PETA causes the apocalypse.
I'm not sure that this part has aged particularly well for me as we, continue to live through an environmental catastrophe perpetuated by rich fascists. But, that's an AI thing, and this is a PETA thing. But yes.
Sure.
So this woman, who is played by Bindu Dastapani, she ends up dying. She immediately revives, and then we are off to the races. But I kind of love that we understand enough of this that it is incredibly violent and very fast acting, but we don't show a ton outside of this initial attack.
No, actually, what I forgot about this movie too is how, not necessarily small scale it is, but like the whole time, you have the character saying like, we don't know what's happened outside. Like, we don't know if the virus has made it. We saw a news report saying it made it to Paris or something like that, and blah, blah, blah. And in this movie, not 28 weeks later, but in this movie, there's no possible way this virus could have gotten out.
No, unless they ran through the tunnel, which I think we maybe see somewhere in 28 weeks later.
Does that link them to the main, like, European mainland?
Oh,
okay. Yeah, because the way they're like, I remember when I read the hot zone for Ebola, and it's like, there's no danger of Ebola ever hitting the United States, because if you got it, like, you would die on the plane before you got to the States. And so this is faster than that. Like, there's no way you would fly on a plane and carry this over until the asymptomatic stuff in 28 weeks later comes into play.
Yes, but I do love the fact that it's used almost like a type of propaganda or something where West will use it to keep his men partially under control, is by saying, oh, well, we're on our own, so now we can do whatever the fuck we want.
Oh, yeah, this is full societal collapse.
It is indeed, yes. All right, so we jump ahead. 28 days later, we're introduced to Jim, who is, played by a slightly emaciated Cillian Murphy.
Yeah.
It truly is wild to think that he was not a well-known name, or that like this is the movie that puts him on a trajectory to get him to work with Christopher Nolan for 6 movies and so on. Like this is the movie that introduces the world to this man.
Yeah, and I did see a direct quote from Nolan saying that he saw 28 Days Later, and that's what convinced him to cast him as the Scarecrow in Batman Begins.
It's wild. Wild.
Yeah. Hey.
Yeah.
The way things work out sometimes.
Truly, sometimes you just need that one big break, right?
And a big penis.
I mean, would we say big?
You can't judge a soft penis. It's fine. It's a very nice looking penis that you can see from afar in this really grainy, pixelated image.
Truly, yes. The fact that the penis is clear as day despite the pixelation maybe is telling. Anyway, no modesty pouch, no shame here. This is very much okay, I've woken up. I don't know why I'm in an abandoned hospital, but I'm just going to raid the vending machine, grab me some sneaks and scrubs, and I'm going to head out into the world.
Well, and this is like 10 minutes of near silence, just watching Jim walk around the hospital, walk around, I think, the parking garage roof, and then, yes, this bridge, Piccadilly Circus, all this shit.
Yeah, and 14-year-old Trace Thurman just goes, boring.
Where are the zombies, man?
Okay, so speaking of this silence, this emptiness, this isolation, surprise secret game, Trace.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so game number 2, I would like you to tell me another movie that does this, if you can.
Like empty London?
It doesn't have to be London, but it has to be a very popular area that is completely devoid of other people, where there should be thousands of people teaming about.
I'm just going to guess the end of Resident Evil.
Okay. Yes, I will accept that as a response. I didn't have a definitive list. I had a couple that immediately came to mind, and I was like, maybe you will have something else. So you did. The ones that came out that were popular were The Devil's Advocate from 1997. Apparently, this, we can see it's Fifth Avenue is completely devoid of people. There is also the double bill of Abre los ojos, otherwise known as Open Your Eyes, and then its 2001 remake, Vanilla Sky, which I feel like it doesn't get spoken about in conversation with this film, but it is definitely doing the same kind of thing. It's just interesting that both Open Your Eyes, which comes out in 1997, same year as The Devil's Advocate, but then also Vanilla Sky, which is the American remake starring Tom Cruise, that comes out in 2001, and these films are never remarked upon as doing the same kind of thing. Like 28 Days Later gets all the thunder for this.
Man, I love me some. I'm doing Vanilla Sky for Weird Wednesday next month, and I am stoked.
It is an interesting film. I will say, I think I prefer it to the original. The original's just a little bit slower.
I've never seen it, but I plan on I plan on watching it before this Vanilla Sky screening, because I would like to be able to compare the two.
They are very similar.
Yeah. I think it's not the same script, but it might as well be the same script.
Mm-hmm. And of course, Penelope Cruz famously playing this exact same character.
I just remember Cameron Diaz going,
I know.
I swallowed your cum!
Mm-hmm. You made me come 5 times.
That means something. Mm-hmm. It does, girl.
It does, indeed, yeah. Okay, I realize I failed to give credit to Steph Rubino, whose piece I'm going to lightly reference throughout this. So they wrote, in 28 Days Later, found families who fight fascism together stay together for autostraddle.
Huh.
Yeah, okay. So, as we said, Jim is wandering around. He sets off a car alarm. He finds a newspaper about the evacuation, and he misses a bloody handprint on this missed connection board where a bunch of people have been posting missing posters or messages to people that they have not been able to connect with.
Yeah, this is actually a really good way to provide exposition, because as we said, like, this is like a 10-minute like dialogue-free sequence, and all we get to see stuff that Jim is seeing, but also we are getting to see stuff that Jim is not noticing. I do love this because I did clock the birds flying in the skyline, and I was like, that's interesting. That was a direct thing that they talked about when they were making this, and this is the quote: "What do we do about the birds? Well, we just decided that the virus didn't kill them."
You're right. Yeah, because there's a moment later where the rats are running away from the infected, and you think, oh, okay, so they're scared of them. Does that mean that the infected could potentially be eating animals? Because later on we have a scene with horses running around, and they seem totally carefree, like fucking carefree horses out there living their best life.
Also, you want to, because that moment is very much like, there are so many moments of like these people who are living the worst existence imaginable, like appreciating the beauty in something. Totally like taken by The Last of Us with the giraffe scene in that first season in the game. We're doing it with horses here.
Yeah, it is a funny thing that frequently seems to come up in either apocalyptic films and or infection and or vampire zombie films, because I'm thinking of I Am Legend as well, where it's like, oh, nature just takes back over and look at how nice it is. It's so quiet. It's like, oh, right, humans cause a lot of destruction and noise.
Fuck, are we getting a sequel to I Am Legend too?
Purportedly, but it's one of those things where I feel like they have said that since the jump, and we have never really seen forward momentum on it.
Yeah, I've never particularly cared for that movie.
Oh, I don't like it. The source material by Richard Matheson, though, A+. Oh,
okay.
So fucking good.
Well, guess we'll probably cover the original when that sequel comes out.
Maybe, yeah. Which is to say, who knows? Maybe never.
Yep.
Okay, so Jim enters a church, and this is where he finds hundreds of dead bodies, and he makes the mistake of making a noise, and these are not all dead bodies, so he attracts the attention of a couple of infected, including a priest who he has to hit in the head with his stolen paraphernalia.
He tries to, like, talk to this priest for so much longer.
Way too long.
I was like, run away, run away.
This person is threatening. Whether or not you know that they are a zombie or infected does not matter. This person is moving towards you at a high speed with dangerous intent.
And they're just going...
Yeah.
Okay, run away.
Yeah. I mean, I love the humanity in Jim. He truly doesn't want to hurt anybody until he has to hurt someone.
And that's a big part of his arc in this, as well as Selena's, because he has to impart this onto her.
She almost has to go the other way, though, doesn't she?
They kind of both have to meet in the middle a little bit.
It's true, yes. In some ways, I do think that this movie has a hopefulness to it, particularly when we get to the end, but it's also a weird, soft romance. Like, it's about Selena and Jim having to come together and meet in the middle, but also maybe realize that we do want to fuck.
Well, and also because this movie does the thing that normally I find really annoying, because she gets very maternal with the Hannah character, and I'm like, but I'm glad that it's not like, oh, like she wanted to be a mother, but she never could, or she couldn't conceive, and stuff, blah, blah, blah. So we get a surrogate daughter thing in this movie, but it's, I think it's handled very deftly. Like, it's not heavy-handed.
Yes. I would agree with that. It's more she lost her father, and how can we help her to not just be a child by herself in the world?
Yeah, I mean, I confess, I do think that Naomi Harris is my MVP of this movie. I really like a lot of her work here.
Oh, she's so fucking good. Yeah. So good. Yeah. And not just the amazing fucking hair, which I'm not really supposed to talk about, but also she looks great.
She looks great. She looks great.
Yeah.
Miss Moneypenny.
Never gave her anything interesting to do, but that's fine. It's fine. Okay, yeah, so we deal with this infected priest. We don't kill them, we just knock him down, but there's many others. So we run out into the street, and this is where things get really frantic, hectic. Yeah. It becomes incredibly disorienting, particularly with this pixelated aesthetic, but there are Molotov cocktails going off. You know, one of the infamous stills, if you search for this film, is Jim running from a fiery infected behind him. And it's all really good. We end up blowing up a petrol station, and then we are introduced to Mark, who is the guy in the gas mask who helped him, played by Noah Huntley, as well as who I call Bristly Selena, played by Naomi Harris.
So I totally forgot about this Mark character, so I was like rewatching this, I was like, I guess he's gonna die soon. Yeah. Because I don't remember this character.
It's interesting because the way that these two are introduced, I'm never sure if Mark and Selena are meant to be read as a couple, because they do have that kind of prickly dynamic that couples sometimes have. But I don't know. Like, I think the answer is no, but you could also read it a little bit as, well, you're a man and I'm a woman, and we're the last survivors that we've seen for 6 days, so...
Well, because we do get like a bit of backstory about them, but not a ton. I think you're right. I don't think that they're meant to be a couple, at least not before this apocalypse happened. But I think, because, I mean, we don't really know exactly how long of these 28 days they've been together.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we know 6 for sure because they say we haven't seen anybody else. But apart from that, that still leaves us 22 days.
I firmly believe it's like, okay, on outbreak day, like they found each other in something. Like that's probably it.
Yeah. I mean, my God, how do you even survive a large scale outbreak in a city the size of London? The fact that they're still in the city to me is a huge mistake.
Yeah. I mean, hide. Honestly, I think doing what Brendan Gleeson and his kid are doing is the way you want to go, even if you've got to shit in a bucket.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we're hunkered down in this kind of convenience store location, and Selena gives us some exposition. So it started in the small towns, and then suddenly it was everywhere. It's a bloodborne virus, very infectious. We also get the backstory for Jim, which is that he was a bike courier, and he got into a battle with a car, and he lost.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so this is also the part where Selena mentions that they have heard that the infections have reached Paris and New York. So we're planting that seed, even though, yes, what we will very quickly come to realize is that there's no way it would survive that long. Like the plane would absolutely just crash.
Yeah. And if Paris was infected, like they would be overrun. But there's no way it got to New York.
Yeah. So there's also no TVs, there's no radio. And the most shocking thing to Jim that he has difficulty reconciling early on is that there's no police and there's no government.
Which, again, it's so bizarre. Like, I think because I'm so used to seeing post-apocalyptic worlds, like post-apocalypse, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not used to seeing the apocalypse in action. And so,
right.
And you know, like you have like disaster, like I don't know, something like Independence Day, where it's like, okay, but like,
but that movie literally has the president getting airlifted to a bunker.
Yeah, like society doesn't collapse in Independence Day, and so that's what I think. What really pulled me through this rewatch was I was just so fascinated in what, you know, Alex Garland's idea of what happens to society in these scenarios. And again, like it happens in Girl with All the Gifts, it happens in all these films we've talked about. But I just on this watch, I really appreciated that more than I had before.
Yeah. Okay. Question for you, just because I can't comment. I haven't seen it. So Day of the Dead, is it doing something sort of similar to this? I know it's well after because, you know, I've seen Dawn of the Dead and that only just briefly touches on the start of the infection before we move to the mall. But like Day of the Dead feels like it could be a spiritual predecessor for this, at least with all the military.
Joe, I have never seen Day of the
You
Dead.
haven't seen it either.
I haven't seen it either. I know. I've seen Night several times. I've seen Dawn once in high school, and that is it. Like, and it's I like zombie movies, but I've just never like gravitated towards them the same way I do like slashers and creature features.
Right. Yeah. I think we've talked a couple of times how we felt burnt out by zombie films after a certain point. So that just kind of diminished how many we were actively seeking out. But I guess, folks, if you feel like there are some connections that we're missing because we don't have that knowledge to pull from, do let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's it.
Okay. Yeah. So the other important thing to know about the way that we proceed in this world is Mark suggests we never go anywhere at night. So we only travel during the day and we never go anywhere by ourselves. So when Jim says, I have to go and check on my parents because I can't, like, I need to know, even though they say, oh, your parents are dead. Your parents are 100% dead. He won't accept that. So the next day, our journey takes us to Jim's parents' house. And I think this is where the film starts to separate itself a little bit. And maybe I'm not being fair to a lot of other texts that do have emotional, vulnerable, character-driven moments.
Right.
But I like that this movie makes time, and it will repeatedly make time for these kinds of smaller, quieter, intimate moments. So Jim taking that time to go, and we see his parents, and they are dead. They died by suicide by taking a bunch of pills. But I love him finding this absolutely devastating it's a note written on the back of a picture of him.
Yeah, I honestly, what the note says, Jim, with endless love, we left you sleeping. Now we're sleeping with you. Don't wake up.
Yeah.
Ooh, man.
it's really heavy in some ways. Like, it's so simple, but it really hits.
And again, like, I think that's when I was 14. I was like, why are we wasting our time with this shit? Like, where are the fucking zombies?
Where are the zombies? Meanwhile, I'm over here crying in the corner.
Yeah, exactly. Man, zombies.
Yeah. Okay, so we have traveled too far and it's just taken up too much time. So we're going to stay in Jim's parents' house for the night. And Selena and Mark go to bed, and Jim can't help himself. He gets melancholy and nostalgic, so he starts watching old tapes of his family. And it's nice, it's a very sweet moment, but it also casts way too much light, and I don't know, he's maybe making too much noise. I think it's just the light from the windows.
It's the candle he lights, because there's a really quick shot where you can see the light clearly flickering in the doorway, and that's when the POV camera like zooms in towards the door.
So this freaked me the fuck out on this rewatch. I knew it was coming, and this jump scare fully made me leap out of my chair.
Oh, yeah, because they don't just come through the door, but they also come through the skylight.
The skylight, the window. It's just, hey, if there is a somewhat permeable surface, we be busting through.
Yeah.
And this is hectic. This is, again, it's very frantic. And it's very hard to make out who or what is winning or happening. So the fact that Mark ends up getting scratched or bitten in the arm, not surprising. The fact that Jim managed to survive this at all, quite surprising.
Absolutely. I did. Before we say goodbye to Mark, because, by the way, though, it really sucks they didn't have any guns, because when Selena just hacks into him with a machete, I was like, oh, that's a terrible way. I would rather just turn.
Yeah, I initially thought we were going to try to do that thing where I'm going to hack off the infected or bit part of your body. Right. So I thought she was going for the arm, and then she just keeps going.
Keeps going. But I did like the story Mark told about his experience with the infection, where they were at the train station or the airport. But the thing that really stuck out to me, though, was when he says, we were walking on soft ground, and I looked down, and it was the bodies of people who had fallen, and we were trampling them. And I was like, oh, yeah. God.
Oh, it is a gut punch. And the fact that he only survived because he climbed over other people to get to safety. And then he describes seeing his father. So he lost track of his other family members, but he could see his father's eyes go red with rage.
Ooh. Well, it's a film about rage, Joe.
Oh, right. Yeah. Right. You know what? I almost forgot.
What if Alex Garland was like, yeah, it's called The Rage Virus. Of course it's about rage. It's literally.
Subtitle, The Rage Virus.
28 Days Later, The Rage Virus.
I mean, we're doing some subtitles for these later films, so
that is true.
Give me the Bone Temple, baby. Mm-hmm. Okay, so Selena does admit, because there's this hot moment where Jim says, how do you know for sure that he was infected? How do you know it wasn't just a cut? And Selena kind of, I don't know if I buy this answer fully, but she says there was something in his eyes. He knew. He had accepted it, and that's why. And I'm like, oh, I don't know, girl.
It's a thing, because, I mean, look, he clearly had a wound on his arm.
Sure.
It wasn't clear that it was a bite, but I think it's a thing where, where someone looks at a wound and they look up like, please don't kill me. Like, that's the look.
It is the look, for sure. It's interesting also that in this film, we never communicate if you have to be bitten or a saliva will do it, or will a scratch from a fingernail do it? Because I remember the first time I saw this when Brendan Gleeson gets the drop of blood in his eye.
Oh, yeah.
And that is enough. I remember being incredibly surprised.
But that makes sense, though, because it's at least blood.
Sure.
I thought they said saliva at some point here, but I didn't.
No, I think it's just blood.
Oh, but you know what does do saliva? 28 weeks later.
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. I guess I'm kind of like the way that we mutate or transform vampire lore, depending on how we want to proceed or make more contemporary the story. I'm always intrigued on what we do with the contagion aspect of a zombie film.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess maybe this is a point where I can bring in a little bit of what Rubio was talking about in their article, because the response to this kind of stuff is very telling, right? The fact that we end up with a military that we can't entirely trust, who has said that they will protect us. I think that's one of the reasons why people end up reading a 9/11 response to this film is, you know, we were all in this panic and we didn't really know who we could trust. People sort of turn on each other. There's a lot of rage in the world. Of course, this movie doesn't have the same kind of xenophobia to it, although I do think you can also read a race critique in here because the way that we are presenting black bodies is very telling.
The way the soldiers talk about Selena's body.
But even like Mailer, the guy that we have chained up, to me, I was like, oh, it's a black prisoner.
Yeah, I did clock that. I was like, the only black guy in this entire group of soldiers.
There is another one because the guy who asked Jim not to leave him when Jim just kind of like bursts out, he's there, but he's a non-existing character.
A non-character that's a coward and a zombie pet.
Yes. Yeah. And then a black woman who is sexualized. And then this black man who is, being held there as a kind of science experiment. So I do think there's that. But then I will say, in a lot of ways, this film feels super prescient to the way that we respond to things like, I don't know, COVID. Like, it was really hard to watch this movie and look at the completely isolated, empty streets and the way that people react in fear to other folks and don't get too close to me. Even when they're, you know, when we go to Brendan Gleeson's apartment and he's in his full regalia, you know, it's meant to be a kind of weaponry, like an armor against the infected, but it also kind of looks like the full hazmat suits that we asked our medical professionals to wear.
Yeah, I remember whenever lockdown like fully started, it was I feel like people were talking about 20 days later, and also
Contagion.
Contagion, yes, that was the other one. Which, funnily enough, another movie I saw the first time and was like, this is kind of boring. Because I wanted something like Outbreak.
Right. I felt like those were actually two of the big films that people were watching at the start of COVID is Outbreak and also Contagion. Like, we just could not help ourselves.
And the funny thing is, Contagion actually is a better movie than Outbreak. It's just that Outbreak is the more Hollywoodized version of this story.
Very much so. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we have lost Mark, and Selena is not entirely apologetic, but this is where she says, okay, well, if you had plans, if you were thinking about a cure, if you thought, the two of us are hot and single and maybe the last people on Earth, so we should fucking fall in love, no, get rid of all of your plans, because at this point, staying alive is the only thing we have to look forward to.
Yep, which... I mean,
dark shit.
Yeah, it sounds so like spoil for me to say this, but like the no baths, like the shitting wherever. It just sounds terrible. But you know what? At least you're not a zombie.
Well, there is that. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm saying Jim's parents' decision is looking a little attractive to me. Not that I am, doing the suicidal ideation thing, but it just seems like this is a lot of hardship for not a lot of reward.
I don't find zombie movies or the subgenre particularly scary, but what I do find inherently scary about zombies is that the idea that if you are infected and, you turn, but like you are still like trapped in your brain in there and you can witness everything your body is doing. But
that'd be worse. I want it to be, I'm a monster. I'm turned off completely. I don't even know who or what I am anymore.
Well, no, that's normally the thing where it's like, it's not that person anymore. They are dead. This is someone totally different. But it's all in a weird way. If it's like, if you're brain dead inside their brain, but like you're still fully aware of everything you're doing. It just trapped in a hell of, well, not your own making, but just a hell.
Yeah, just hell. Yeah. So let's move on to introduce our two other main characters, at least for the time being. So yes, we spot blinking Christmas lights on a nearby high-rise. So we investigate, we climb over this barricade of shopping carts, and unfortunately, Jim is starting to have a sugar crash because, of course, he's only been drinking
soda,
pop, eating candy bars. Like, he was in the hospital for 28 days, so he was getting IV, but presumably that ran out at a certain point. So he's hella weak. He cannot run up these stairs. I love this moment of desperation from Cillian Murphy when he is begging Selena not to leave him.
That was hard to listen to a little bit. But luckily, like, they seem to catch up immediately after that. But I was fully like, oh, girl, she's left you.
I think he also realizes that. I mean, the only thing that saves him is that they don't have to go much higher. to get to where they need to go.
Well, but that's the thing is, though, I mean, like, because they climb through this barricade of shopping carts, which I love, and I mean, immediately, like, what, they make it up 10 flights and that they're running after them?
Yeah. And I don't even know why they discover them this time. It just seems like, oh, okay, they were able to track you this time. It ultimately doesn't really matter because this set piece is incredibly exciting. You know, I am screaming along with Selena at Hannah to open the fucking door because, I mean, but I get it from Hannah's perspective. Why would I want to? So Hannah is played by Megan Burns, by the way. She is the teenage daughter of Frank, who is played by Brendan Gleeson, a.k.a. the sweetest, most enjoyable character in this entire movie. So, of course, he's got to go at some point.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if you were Hannah, you were a preteen teenage girl. The only relation you have left is Frank. He's out there. You can't see him. You can't hear him. And there's two random people screaming and swearing at you. I don't know if I'm opening that door.
What do we think of Megan Burns? I think she's pretty good. I mean, I think she's fine in this movie, but I saw a lot of quotes from her in that oral history where she said like she was tormented by people for her bad acting in this film.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Like people called her a blight on cinema. Like she was getting hate mail like all the time.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. No, I think she's fine. I don't think the character has a ton to do, but the moments where she does get something to do, I like her.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, apparently this 14, 15-year-old girl, people were, I mean, thank God the internet wasn't as, well, I mean, it was there, obviously. It was there. But it wasn't like social media wasn't where it is today. So
yeah. I mean, we love to hate on child actors at the best of times.
Really
so, okay, we all eventually end up inside. We do a little creme de menthe cheer because hey, more people. Now we were once 2 and now we're 4. So woo. And everybody is temporarily safe. I do love that this movie apparently takes place at Christmas because we are hearing a acoustic version of Frosty the Snowman over this scene.
I couldn't tell if it actually was Christmas because I would also assume that in the UK, like it would be snowing, but I don't know.
Maybe it may just depend on the year. Could be a white Christmas or no, right?
I guess they're filming on location, though, in, like, September. So even if the movie is set in Christmas, like, they're not filming at Christmas, and they're not going to pay for fake snow.
We got no budget.
Although, $8 million is actually a pretty hefty sum when you think about it.
That's true. We're shooting on a personal camcorder, so where did the money go? That's what I want to know. It's probably to shut down the city so that we could shoot some of these scenes.
Yes.
Okay, so Jim takes the opportunity to do a bit of a dry shave. This is actually pretty painful to watch as well. I hate watching people shave in movies.
Well, because it's the Foley work on it, like the scraping of the... And well, he's actually using like a store-bought like disposable razor, but I feel like in movies it's always a fucking like straight razor.
Well, and I've never seen someone shave and not cut themselves. It's a classic thing that we just do in all of these movies, to the point where I actually don't shave with a razor. I only ever do an electric razor, in part because movies have taught me I will just cut myself.
When I didn't grow out my beard, I always use a razor, but now I trim it with an electric one.
There we go. So, yeah. Plus, everybody just looks sexier with a bit of 5 o'clock shadow. Just saying.
Well, I'm getting fatter and a fuller face as I get older, and the beard makes me look skinnier.
Oh, yeah. No, it's a good strategy. Good call. Good call. Also, I don't think you're getting fatter.
My face, trust me, my face is way fuller than it was, like, even 5 years ago.
You're aging into yourself.
Yes, and the beard makes me the beard makes me look better.
There we go. You know what? I like the beard. That's what I'm saying. Okay? Stop fishing for compliments. My God. Okay, so yeah, we have to do a quick clarification about, so you two fucking, do I put you in the same room? No? Okay. And we get this nice moment where Jim goes in and he thanks Selena for saving his life because, yeah, she has done that a couple times at this point, but she, not so quietly and not so politely, very bluntly, as is her way, says, basically, if you keep taking pity on people or if you keep letting other people dictate the agenda, it will get you killed.
Yeah, I mean, she flat out says, like, I don't trust Hannah and Frank. And it's the thing where it's like, you don't, they seem nice at first, but like these also could, I don't know, they could be like a father-daughter, like,
serial killer,
yeah,
or just even opportunist, right? It's like the whole point of most post-apocalyptic films or texts in general is that you don't know how much you can trust anybody, because when the rubber hits the road, when the shit hits the fan, when any other euphemism you want to use, when things get bad, people start to reveal facets of themselves that they would never do so in polite society.
Yeah, exactly. Like when there's no order, when there's no law enforcement, when there's no government, all bets are off.
Yeah. One of these days, man, I'm going to make us do the most Debbie Downer double bill of The Hole and The Divide, and we are just going to talk about how society is fucked.
I'm done. You've been talking about The Hole forever. I'm excited to watch that.
It's not, neither one of them are great, but they have cemented themselves on my psyche. Those movies have fucked me up.
Oh, yeah, no, we should totally watch those movies. I want to see movies that fucked you up as a kid.
Oh, yes, okay. You know what? You'll watch them and be like, this is kitty gloves.
No,
what are you talking about?
How many times have we done that with films that I grew up with where I was like, this terrified me as a kid? Not anymore, but as a kid, it scared the crap out of me.
Oh my God. I mean, you are calling in a favor next week. Not for something that scared you, but something that you watched as a kid, so.
I am calling in a favor next week.
Anyway, we will get there. Okay. So the next day we go up to the roof. We see that Frank actually has a pretty smart setup. You know, he's taken over all of these empty plastic jugs. He's trying to collect water for rain, but it's just not working. So the reality of the situation is setting in. We probably can't afford to stay here. Enter message that we have found on the radio. Soldiers promising a utopia. It's a safe zone. All you gotta do is get to south of Manchester.
Fun fact, everyone. This is almost always a trap in these kinds of movies.
It truly is. But if I was putting myself in their situation, it's just the four of you. You're not seeing anybody else. Your supplies are dwindling. You would have to take the chance, right? Like when Hannah says, well, we're all in this together and we've got to trust each other. But also, if we stay here, we will die. So,
well, I think that's the thing is if you're in this kind of a situation, you have to accept the fact that, like, look, I either stay here and die for sure,
or take the chance,
or we take
and
the
maybe
chance
live.
And maybe live. It's probably a 90% chance that we die, but it's 100% chance if we stay. So,
yeah. And I don't want to stay in some random high rise and starve to death or expire because I can't get water.
And there's no electricity.
I'd rather fight. If you're going to make the decision to keep on fighting and not take the Jim Parent route, then you got to leave the city.
I was going to say there's no electricity, so you can't watch TV, but they did have the electricity for those lights. So
I think they could have been solar powered or battery operated.
Yeah. Also, I realized we forgot. I mean, I guess it wasn't super influential because it didn't do very well when it hit theaters, but the other British like virus movie that came out in the years after this.
Yeah.
Doomsday.
It does come up. I think it's because it made zero impact on so many people. I like it. I would actually like to cover Doomsday one day.
Oh, no. I'll totally cover Doomsday. It's like this mixed with Mad Max, mixed with something else, and it doesn't all work, but it's fun.
Virtually none of it works, but also it's better than most of the things that Mr. Neil has made.
Well, in the way, it's his second best film after, well, I guess some people would say Dog Soldiers, but it's his second best film that he made after The Descent.
That's true. Actually, if we're going to be realistic, we should probably cover Dog Soldiers first, because there's more queer-coded content in that film.
I know, and that's another one that I only saw once and didn't particularly care for it the first time I saw it.
Really?
Well,
I really like it.
It was after all the buzz, and I finally saw it, and I was kind of like, that's it. But I'm also like not a big werewolf person, so I look forward to the chance to like reappraise this.
Okay. Mission accepted.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so yes, we're going to pack up the cab because this is what we discover Frank did. He drove a cab for a living. So we're going to pack it up and we're going to leave the city to the tune of Ave Maria. Because, beautiful, serene, calm. Immediately, we have to make a very bad decision, which is that we're going to go into the, I wrote in my notes, very obviously shit idea to go through this tunnel because why would you ever go in a fucking tunnel in a zombie movie?
Well, because the first thing I thought was, if it's blocked, you're fucked. And that's well, I guess it is blocked, but they're not fucked because they do get over it.
They do, but they blow the tire, and then that's when the rats arrive, and then that's when the infected begin arriving. And again, this is very similar to the tension mounting scene that we had when we were trying to get Hannah to let us into the apartment. But I love near misses.
Oh, so do I. And I feel like the shot of the shadows of the infected against the wall.
Oh, it's so scary.
And I feel like it's a very a common image you see in relation to this film. But I agree. And truthfully, though, if I see a bunch of... I was a little surprised they weren't worried about the rats possibly being infected. Because wasn't
Me too.
Weren't rats carriers of like the bubonic plague or something?
Definitely that. Yeah. I think, again, we're just kind of doing the same thing as we did with the birds, right? It's okay. No, we don't have to worry about them. But also, what do they mean? Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck.
Yeah. I mean, like, God forbid one of these things bites you and you get infected. I mean, I guess you'll find out. So,
God, can you imagine? I survived the rage virus, but then I succumbed to whatever sort of pestilence the fucking rat gave me from that one bite.
Yeah. But I mean, this sequence goes on for for almost endless amounts of time as we were just waiting. Put the tire on. Put the tire on. Put the tire on. I'm like, oh my
let's all lift the car because we can't afford the time it takes to get the jack up.
Yeah.
I love it. And then we end with this red eyes just slamming against the back windshield as they peel out of here. And I will say, this is some very clever foreshadowing of what Miller will ultimately do to West at the end of the film.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so we talked about Romero a little bit. Let's do a Dawn of the Dead homage because we have to go shopping for supplies at this pristine grocery store that we magically discover. Like, is this Narnia? I love it.
This is one of my favorite scenes in the film. Like what I was talking about earlier, where it's like, okay, like we're finding like kind of like beauty in the misery here. Like this is one of the most... Like, there are moments of joy in this movie, but I think this is kind of the epitome of it. We get to buy anything we ever wanted. We talk about our likes, our dislikes. The moment where Selena says, if I never eat another chocolate bar, ooh, a Terry's orange. Yeah. Or Frank looking at all the rotten fruit, except for those green apples because they've been like irradiated.
Irradiated, yeah. But even, him not having to settle for the cheap scotch because
hell yeah,
go for the most expensive stuff. And then even that visual image of him leaving his credit card as they walk out with their completely full carriers. It's just one of those things where if you had to live in this terrible garbage situation, this would be one of the very few perks.
100%. And again, like this isn't even like a scene that's particularly novel. I mean, you said homage to Dawn of the Dead because we're shopping, yes. But like, I feel like we get a scene like this in almost every single post-apocalyptic movie,
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Something about it just touched me here.
I think it's lovely. Yeah, it's really the first time we've been able to see Frank and Hannah unwind and just get a sense of who they are as people as well. So, and the reality is that all four of them are reacting the same way. It reminds us that there's a common humanity.
Yes, 100%. Well, and that's the thing, because again, the enemies in this movie is humanity, not the infected.
Always people. Yeah. Okay, so after this, we need to get gas. That's our next stop. And this is almost anticlimactic, but in a really enjoyable way, because you think that something big is going to happen here. But the most eventful moment is when Jim doesn't listen to Selena and he goes into this little restaurant and he ultimately ends up having to kill an infected boy. So it's a huge character moment for Jim, but ultimately this is not a huge set piece. We don't have a horde of infected descend upon them. We don't have to quickly build a tank and peel out. The other important thing, though, that we do learn in this moment is that Hannah can drive.
Yes. There was so I do like this, and I agree. Like, it's not really like an action set piece. I wouldn't go that far. It's very much Jim has to. This is the first time he's killed someone, so this is a very momentous thing for Jim. I love maybe a weird word choice, but like the shot of this woman holding her dead baby, which we fully see the dead baby.
Yeah.
Did you catch this? I had my subtitles on, and the infected child says or yells, "I hate you," whenever Jim is on top of him.
Oh, really? Okay, because we don't get verbal in other times, do we?
No. To my knowledge, none of these things speak in this film or 28 Weeks Later, and certainly not most zombie films. So I just thought it was interesting that we had a kid. I mean, truthfully, because I listened for it, and I was kind of like, it just kind of sounds like mumbled garbage, but like, but the subtitles. So I was like, okay.
Once again, this is why you should always watch movies with subtitles. You'll pick up more.
But yeah.
Okay, so we drive on from this. This is where we get the picnic scene. I want to say in the church ruins, we see the family of horses and they're out there living their best life because human beings are not around anymore. And it just kind of cements something for Jim and Selena. So they have wandered away. They've left father and daughter to just enjoy the moment. And you can tell that part of Selena's fatalism, her cynicism, just that darkness that she brings to the table is because she doesn't have anything close to what Frank and Hannah has, and now probably never will.
Well, but that's why she's softening, though, because we don't know a lot about what Selena's life was before, because I could fully believe she had a family, she was great, and then she lost all those people, and that's what hardened her, and she doesn't want to get close to someone because she knows she's gonna have to kill them anyway, you know?
Right.
But this is when we really, I mean, she says, like, I may have been wrong when I said that staying alive is as good as it gets. Like, she's going towards Jim while Jim is going more towards her.
Yeah, and this is where she does plant a little peck on the cheek, and when we decide that we're going to stay overnight in the open, again, shades of The Last of Us, where I just thought, okay, well, somebody's watching, right? Someone's standing guard, because what the fuck are we doing here, folks? But this is where we get just that little smidge about Selena's backstory, that she was a chemist because she has a full-blown pharmacy. Oh,
I did love the touch where, like, Jim wakes her up and she just, like, has this machete in her hand ready to go.
She is ready at all times. You know what? If you stay ready, you don't gotta get ready.
But if she's that alert on Valium, good for her.
Good for her. Well, clearly she has been using some of her own supply, because maybe that's why she has a greater tolerance for it. Because Jim is out. But also, this nightmare is highly relatable content. And I think Cillian Murphy does such a fantastic job of conveying how fucking scared it would be to have started to make connections to people and then wake up and think that you have been abandoned by them.
It's a horrifying feeling.
He sells it so well.
Yeah.
And there's this really nice little quiet moment where Frank ends up more or less reassuring him and saying, you know, hey, you're having a nightmare. And Jim doesn't wake up, but he does say, thanks, Dad.
Yes. Oh, I do love, though, like, he says, like, because the scariest, Jim wakes up. Like, the scariest thing is to be alone. And I find that very relatable.
Yeah. And then, you know, the film doesn't belabor the point. It kind of lets you understand what's going on. We take that beat, and then Jim is being hurriedly woken up because the car is packed. We have missed breakfast. We're back on the road because we are so close to the 42nd blockade. But first, we do have to see that all of Manchester is apparently completely on fire.
Oh, I know. Because I was like, what are they looking at? What are they looking at? Did they see a bunch of bodies? But if it's all on fire, then that implies there's a lot of people over there. We have not seen a lot of people, or any people, where they are.
Okay, this is unsubstantiated, so this is me potentially reaching, but I think that what we did is we firebombed this entire city. So I don't think this is like an isolated thing. I think this is we dropped a bomb on this city because we were trying to get rid of it.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Okay, yeah, I'll go with that.
Yeah, we don't know. We don't know any better. We don't know any worse.
Who cares?
I do want to acknowledge that this whole sequence, so when we get into the car, when we're driving down these highways, when we see Manchester, when we get just up to the 42nd blockade, it's all set to the Choir of Trinity College's rendition of In Paradisium for Requiem. So it's a very haunting, again, Christmassy kind of choir melody, but it seems serene and ominous at the same time.
Well, because it's tying directly into what Frank's going through right now, because Frank, who we have seen as a wonderful teddy bear of a man, this was clearly his light at the end of the tunnel. And when they get here and there's no one there, he loses it.
Yeah, he gets really upset. And it's kind of frightening because Brendan Gleeson's not a small guy. Like, he's imposing in a way, not based on size and stature, but just like the way he projects and holds himself. He has been a kind of rock for this group. You know, Jim is finding himself. Selena is thawing. Hannah is a child. Frank felt so confident. So to see him suddenly turn and become angry, to push Hannah, it's all a little bit scary. You know, you don't want Frank to unravel. Frank needs to be the person who keeps it all together.
He's the anchor. Absolutely.
He's the anchor. Yes. And the fact that he gets this rage, this moment of rage before he will be infected with rage. This is a trailer moment. I'm kind of pissed that they spoiled it because it is so shocking. I think I said at the start of this episode, I did not expect this character to be turned or die, even though it makes total logical sense when you think of, oh, nicest character, they gotta go.
Absolutely. And it's one of those things where it's like, oh, that dot, he was standing right there. It just happened to fall right in it. Because if it fell in his cheek, he would have been fine. But it fell right in his eye, which, the idea of blood falling in your eye is gross enough as it is.
It's super gross, yeah. But also, I love the decision to shoot this as a POV from the Blood's point of view.
Yes, with like a red filter on it. It's great.
Yeah. And he gets it in the eye, and it's a full body effect where you can see Brendan Gleeson react like, you know, I'm sure you've had this where you unexpectedly get shot in the face.
Oh, yeah.
Something. It's surprising.
All the time.
All the time, yes. Yeah, all the time. Shot in the face. But
he's not talking about guns, folks.
I'm just talking about dead people blood. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And as we have learned from Selena, we've got about 10 seconds. I do love that Frank knows what has happened, understands what is going to happen. So he pushes Hannah away to try to get some distance because he doesn't want to hurt her. He says he's sorry for yelling, tells her he loves her, and then dies. He does the most important things to protect her, but also, like, I love that as horrifying, as traumatizing as this is for Hannah, her last words, her last exchange with her father was him saying, I love you.
Yeah, but also he doesn't just die.
He does not just die.
Soldiers come out of the grass and kill him.
And the blood just goes everywhere, to the point where I thought, everybody maybe close your eyes and also your mouths, because you got Frank blood going all over every which way.
I know, right? Like, you don't want to be near anyone when they're getting, like, riddled with bullets.
No, it's dangerous. Okay, so as I said, this is just past the 1 hour mark. So basically when Mark dies, that's the half-hour mark, and this is the 1 hour mark, and we have 57 minutes left.
That's kind of wild that this army stuff takes up that much of the runtime.
It's huge, right? Because I feel like it's the part of the film that people either like the least or the part that they forget about the most.
Why do you, and I forgot about this, but why do you think people like this the least?
I think it's just not the film that they were quote-unquote sold. So we thought we were going to get Jim trying to get out of London and a bunch of people running after him on fire, and it was going to be shocking infections. I didn't realize it was going to be, oh, don't trust the military. They're a bunch of rapists. They're fucking idiots. Like, this group of men that we are about to meet are so juvenile. They are so green, and yet they are supposed to represent our best hope. And it just feels very nihilistic.
So is this ever actually addressed? Because I don't know if this is true or not, but I always wondered if these were actually army guys.
I mean, I think you could, in the same way that I did the Manchester gets bombed read, right. I think you could say, oh, are these people, like Jones, the cook, there's a moment where he has to fire a gun and he cannot even point it the right way. Right. So I think you could make an argument that these are just men who picked up the suits, who picked up the guns and said, oh yeah, we're the army now.
Yep. And well, whatever it is, these are all assholes.
They're definitely all assholes. Yeah. Okay. So we are taken by jeep to this nearby castle, and we are welcomed by Major Henry West, who, yes, is Christopher Eccleston, a pinnacle of British film and television, very distinctive looking man. And when you see him, he's either going to be the best or the absolute worst character.
And
he's going to be Doctor Who, or he's going to be this guy.
Yeah, he's the worst in this one.
Yeah. But even just, it's red flag central, right? You know, they pull up. They have just undergone this horrible experience with Frank's death. They're still processing it. You know, Hannah is completely shell-shocked. And he's standing there going, yeah, I've got clean sheets and hot water for you. And you just think, this is a person who doesn't know how to read the room.
Well, this is just too good to be true. Like
it's that too. Mm-hmm.
Because also, I saw, because they found this building to use for this place, and they didn't have to do anything to it. They didn't do any set dressing. Like, it just looked, it was gorgeous, but also like dilapidated.
Yeah, it's derelict your balls.
There you go. Derelict. Thank you.
But it does have hot water, so just in case you were like, I haven't seen enough of Cillian Murphy's body, let's make sure to show the backside as well.
Oh my god, I know. We get in case you.
And it's a cute little butt.
It's a cute little butt. He's just showering. Also, yeah, because we don't. Do we get female nudity in this movie?
No, we do not.
Good.
We
for
just
you,
get implied
Danny Boyle.
sexual assault.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, but no, it's like, did you want to see every part of Cillian Murphy? Yeah, you will get it in this movie. Did you want to see tits and ass from the female side? No, you get none of that. Okay, so after he is drying off, we get to see that the soldiers have taken the cab and they are doing donuts outside. Yeah. You're just like, oh, wow. Okay, so juveniles.
And I love this. So we have Selena finally breaks down at this point in the film. And
yes,
there's this line that she has I just love because, Jim says, Hannah's just going to cope. And what Selena says is, I don't want her to have to fucking cope. I want her to be okay. And I loved this line of dialogue. I totally get it. It's totally understandable. And this is when we're really getting into the whole like Selena's maternal side thing.
Yeah, but as you said, it feels natural. It feels like a nice evolution. It doesn't feel forced or shoehorned in. Like, if we have to do this kind of thing, I want it to be more like this.
Yeah, 100% agreed. And again, don't give Selena the backstory of, I tried to have a kid, but I lost my daughter. And blah, blah, which, again, maybe that is part of the backstory that Naomi Harris is working with. Because I'm sure a lot of actors build backstories in their head. But again, the whole like, I lost a child, so you're my surrogate is like, it's such a fucking tropey, annoying thing for me.
Sure. And we're not going to say that it can never work because folks were talking about Bring Her Back on the Patreon this month. And that's a film that uses that trope very, very well. But I would also argue that's the entire film. It's not just Sally Hawkins' backstory. It's like what the film is exploring.
Exactly.
Whereas if we did it with Selena here, like, I used to have a little girl and she died in the first 6 days. It would just feel so trite and so shoehorned in. It would feel dismissive in some ways. I also just really like this idea that I don't want her to be happy. I don't want her to grow up. It's like the bar is, I want her to be okay. That is what the world is that we're living in now.
Yeah, that's a tall order in this reality.
I mean, especially given where we're at, but yes.
We got a complicated order.
I do also kind of like that Jim misreads this situation. So it's his turn to say, we both got survivor's guilt, so why don't we try making out? And the timing is just not right. So Selena leaves.
As you do.
Yeah. I mean, when the kiss is not right, you walk away.
But then we just go through this tour of the whole facility, which maybe goes on a little bit too long, but it's also we can be introduced to Mailer.
It's that. It's also a little bit of Wes Craven geography. And I think it has to gently reinforce the fact that look at how well we are protected. But if you flip it around, it's look at what prison you have signed up for now.
Yeah. Look how well we're protected, but also look how hard it is to escape.
Exactly, because you think you can just run out onto that lawn? Oh, there's explosives. Oh, we've got doors that are firmly secured. We've got barbed wire. We've got armed men. If you want to leave, you better hope we're going to let you because you're not getting out of here if we don't say so. Yeah. Okay. So the other red flags that I clocked is when West. These are all red flags. And then West starts talking about how they've got this goal of rebuilding. And I think in an optimistic perspective, you could say, okay, we're going to try to get back to some semblance of normalcy, right? But he is coded talking about repopulation, right?
Yeah.
And it's this entire group of men, but oh wow, look, now we've got women.
That's the thing where I was like, you're just a bunch of men all here. But I think though, and I think that's maybe why the shift into what the reveal of what they're actually doing is maybe really a hard pill to swallow for some people, because I do think a lot of people, myself included, don't want to believe that people have something like this in them.
And one of the things that never really gets commented on, but I found this on a quick kind of Reddit thread, because I love Reddit, apparently. People clocked, this movie is literally called 28 Days Later. So it's been 4 weeks.
4 weeks.
Since the start of the outbreak. This is what these men have already devolved to.
Well, and here's the thing, though. The whole, all right, I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, but like whenever Wes tells Jim, like, this is what we're doing, he told them that 6 days ago whenever Mailer was infected. So when Mailer was infected, they all lost hope. And then he said, okay, well, I'm going to get you women. We're going to do this radio. So this is the first group to come to them from this radio signal.
Yeah, he's surprised that it worked, which means that he would probably leave it up so that we could maybe recruit more women.
Yeah, because I guess I was thinking, okay, so do you have like a prison cell full of women down there that you're just like raping over and over? No, you want that.
That's what he wants. That's the end goal.
Exactly.
Yeah, but for repopulation, Trace, because you can't just have these men with no women to fuck. They would be so sad. They would be contemplating suicide.
But it is hard to believe. I mean, not even a critique, but just from my brain to be like, wow, like the go-to after 4 weeks is let's rape a bunch of women.
100%. It's very dispiriting.
Yeah, which I think, though, because, this isn't like a fucking feel-good movie, except for those brief moments of joy we get in Act 2. But this maybe crosses a line for some people where it's just too dark.
Well, this isn't the thing that you thought you were signing up for. You thought you were going to get humanity versus
zombies.
X.
Yeah.
And instead, and really, in 2003, 2004, we probably hadn't tipped over that line. But anybody who is familiar with Romero's work and a lot of other lesser zombie titles will know the zombies are often not the primary antagonist.
Also, I feel like rape is almost always a thing in post-apocalyptic things.
It's very true.
Like that really seems to be the male penis's go-to in apocalyptic situations.
Yes. Yeah. Because when you remove societal restrictions, when you take apart the social fabric, the rules, the etiquette, the morals and ethics and so on, I think, unfortunately, a lot of people recognize that given the chance, given the choice, men will default to this most basic primal instinct. And it's like, I want to kill and I want to fuck. And it doesn't matter if people consent to either.
Doesn't that line, though, I promise them women, just give you chills?
Oh, it's so fucking scary. Again, I will make the call out to listeners, women. How does this movie make you feel? Because I feel like it's one thing to watch it and be like, these men are shit. But like, this feels like a lot of people's worst nightmares, just saying, oh yeah, we're just going to bring it to the surface and acknowledge the quiet part out loud.
But it's also mostly an implication, like we're not seeing rapes. We see a near rape in this movie, but like, I don't feel like Naomi Harris is exploited in this film. I don't think her body's exploited in this film.
No. And honestly, she's so fucking badass. Like she is kind of giving that Michonne vibes from The Walking Dead, right? Like, give me a samurai sword or give me a machete, give me a fucking badass haircut. And yeah, like I like the fact that Selena is very pragmatic. She's very realistic. And
I mean, she fully submits herself to being raped just to protect Hannah.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, and it doesn't feel like a concession. It feels like a sacrifice, which again, I don't know that I 100% love, but in reality, like if we're trying to take this grounded, realistic approach, she doesn't have a ton of options.
Oh, yeah,
like she could try to fight and probably just get killed.
She has fully realized, like, if I try to run, we will die. So again, it's, do I 100% die and escape, or do I get raped and survive?
And we're not suggesting this is not incredibly upsetting, by the way.
Oh, no. Absolutely. But that's where we are here. Like, and that she chooses the rape option shows like just how where she is in her mind.
It's very dire. Yeah.
Very dire.
The weird gendered shit is just kind of baked into this. Like one of the things that I picked up on this most recent rewatch is that when we're getting the tour, we're introduced to the cook, who is Private Jones. I mentioned him earlier. He's shit with the gun. He's played by Leo Bill. And when we're introduced to him, he's performing this quote unquote very gendered, very female role of making the meal. And he's wearing a pink apron.
Yep, and no one comments on that really, but yeah, I know I clocked that too, but we don't really do much with that outside of the fact that we just got to rape all these women.
Well, when we sit down at the table, I mean, I kind of enjoyed that there is this pomp and circumstance, this performativity in Wes putting on his full regalia, right? Like he is very dressed up for dinner. He comes in and he is the master of ceremonies, but when we sit down, we discover that the omelet is bad because the eggs were off, and also Jones is a shit cook. There's a moment where Wes actually he looks at Hannah and he says, do you cook? Because we're looking for someone with a bit more flair in the kitchen. As if to suggest, oh, well, you're a woman, so you should obviously cook, because that's the kind of role that we, as these fucking misogynistic men, are immediately going to put you and Selena into. You're here to cook for us, to probably clean for us, or for us to fuck.
Yeah, I mean, all of the above. Like, I fully believed, they were going to put at least one of them in the kitchen, because Jones was not going to be making any more omelets after this.
No. Now, we should note that there is one naysayer, there is one standout, there is one decent person, and that would be Sergeant Beryl, who's played by Stuart McQuarrie, and he is similar to Selena in his very kind of fatalistic look, right? So he talks about how maybe a return to normalcy would actually be eliminating the human race entirely, because we are just a blip in history, right? So maybe this is just an effort to get rid of us, and it wouldn't be that bad. And I like that Wes uses that as an opportunity to just kind of reinforce, oh no, this is the new normal now, because he's seen people for the last 4 weeks killing other people. And what had he seen for the weeks before that? Humans killing humans. So this is just normal now. We should just accept this, that this is what we do now.
Because Farrell kind of puts this into perspective. He's like, he basically calls him an infection denier. Yeah. Which I think is really funny and oddly prescient.
Yes, indeed it is. But clearly, Wes has all of the rest of these men under his thumb. In part, we're going to learn because he gives them certain privileges. He treats them the way that they want to be treated so that he can stay in control. And Farrell doesn't abide by that. Like, you can tell that he's maybe the only person who actually knows what the fuck he's doing. In part because he is also a sergeant. Everybody else is a private.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this dinner gets interrupted because an infected attack sets off the alarms. So everybody goes up to their posts, and Trace, we are using all the ammo. Just all of it.
So here's the thing, though. So this is kind of fun. We stop the infected from getting in. The men are so horny after this. That this is when all the rape. This is when we get the I promise them women. Wes tells Jim, thinking I guess he's just gonna agree.
Yeah, he's gonna go along with it because you're a man. So yeah, this is really when Corporal Mitchell starts to come to the forefront as well. He's played by Richie Harnett. This is the dude who will more or less put himself right next to Selena and grab at her. He takes her machete because she's not gonna need that because she's a woman.
Man, honestly, I wanted all of these men to die horrific, horrible deaths, and I don't think most of them get it as bad as they should. But
right?
This guy,
it's pretty good, actually.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, so this is where it all kind of comes out. I love that there isn't even a pretense. We haven't even been here 24. We haven't even been here 12 fucking hours, Trace. And it's like, oh, well, yeah, we totally just did this so that we could lure women in, rape them. These dudes are idiots. I just promised them this stuff to keep them under control. It's a giant clusterfuck. Hey, you want in?
And well, it's like he just looks in Jim's eyes and he's like, "Oh, you don't want in.
You don't want in." Like, I would have loved for you to have joined us, but no. So Farrell and Jim both end up in this kind of cellar dungeon, and so we're asking Selena and Hannah to go upstairs and get dressed up in pretty clothes so we can rape you.
I think it's Mitchell that says this, but he says, "I'm gonna have the black one and I'm gonna make her squeal."
Oh boy.
How timely, given our discussion of Deliverance a few weeks ago.
Yeah, honestly, I just feel like I don't ever want to hear the word squeal in a horror film because it just always connotes rape.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Terrible. Okay, so Selena is being guarded by, I just put hats in my notes for the longest time because it's the guy who wears the hat. That's what distinguishes him. This is Private Clifton, who is played by Luke Mabley, and she encourages him to give them some privacy. Like, okay, we're going to do what you want. We're going to acquiesce to these ridiculous demands, but you got to give us a moment so that we can get dressed. Like, you're going to have your way with us, but for now, leave the fucking room.
Oh my God. And
she uses this as an opportunity to open the pharmacy.
Yeah. So what does she give Hannah?
It's something that calms her down, but also just kind of diminishes her sensory. Yeah, because Hannah, she acts a little bit drunk, right? Like that's why she's very comfortable goading everybody and saying, oh, Wes is dead. Everybody is dead.
It's almost like she has a truth serum.
A little bit of that, but yeah, the intended consequence is definitely the moment where she tells Selena, I don't really feel anything anymore. Mm-hmm. And you're like, okay, so this is basically just to turn her into a living doll so that the trauma she is about to endure, she won't.
Like she either won't remember it or she won't feel anything by it. So this is Selena's way of trying to help her escape the trauma of the very real rape she's about to experience.
Yep.
Like her exact words are, I'm making you not care.
Yeah. It's so rough.
Yeah.
It's so rough.
Yeah.
Okay, so some time has passed, or enough time has passed that we've decided, okay, we're going to take Jim and Farrell out and we're just going to shoot them. So the people who take him out, where did I mean it? So Mitchell and Jones are the ones who take them out. Sorry, this is before all the rape and drugs and stuff with Selena and Hannah, but essentially Farrell, he tries to make these men man up, for lack of a better term. So he says, if you're going to kill me, you have to kill me. You can't just walk me into the forest and pretend like this is going to be an easy thing.
Well, but then Jones takes the challenge. He's like, fine, I'm going to fucking hack you up.
No, it's actually Mitchell who's going to do that, because Mitchell's the shitty one. So he's like, oh, I'm just going to stab you a bunch. I'm going to, he's very, I will take pleasure in this because I am a psychopath. Mm-hmm. And Jones just shoots Farrell because he doesn't want to have to go through this.
It's an act of mercy.
It is an act of mercy, but it's also a bit of an act of cowardice because Jones could have, let him go. He could have shot Mitchell instead, and he didn't because he is still a rule follower and he wants in on this.
Yeah.
So
I was surprised that the gunfire didn't, because Jim jumps over the barrier here, I think, so he's on the outside. He does. I was surprised that the infected aren't notified by the gunfire.
Truly. The only infected that we will see from this point on is Mailer, and then the people that Mailer converts. Unless you're watching deleted scenes, in which case it seems like there are some other infected who managed to get in for the climax. But I guess Garland and Boyle decided they didn't need all of that. We could keep it tighter, more intimate.
Yeah, that's fine.
But Jim has managed to escape. He is shirtless because he lost it going over the barbed wire fence, but he does have this very important moment where when he's lying, hiding out, he sees a plane go over.
Yes.
So Wes's whole insistence that this is the new normal, that this is who we are now, the rest of the society has gone and there's no rules and regulations. It's like, motherfucker, there's a plane right there.
We're over sitting in North America like, I wonder how the UK's doing right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've gone a bit dark. What do you think's going on over there? Maybe cancel that trip to London.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, so back to Rape Bill. Jim has figured out that he needs to lure Wes and some other guys out. So the rain has begun at this point. He gets them to come out to Blockade 42. He kills the driver. He disables the car so that Wes has to hoof it on foot. And the infected have managed to find him. So I think this is where that other version of events would have come from.
It would have played through. I mean, again, we don't need more footage of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So while Jim is using this as a distraction, he has doubled back to the castle prison and he releases Mailer. So this is the black imprisoned infected guy. And I mean, this is super risky because Jim could have gotten attacked by this guy.
Anyone
or he runs the risk of Selena or Hannah getting caught in this. But
the reveal of Mailer in the window behind the soldier is great. I think that's one of the shots, along with the dropping blood, that I really remember from this movie, because it's not even a jump scare per se. It's just like we cut. Oh God, look at those red eyes.
Yeah. And here's the thing: this was foreshadowed in the tunnel sequence, right? When we had the red eyes in the windows, and also the moment at Jim's family's house when basically it just bursts through the window.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this is where Clifton gets it, the guy with the hat. So it's him and Jones are in this room and they're just talking about like, yeah, you know, we're going to have so much fun.
Honestly, I'm shocked. I'm not shocked because you're really good at character names, but I am shocked that you actually went through naming all of these like these other soldiers, because I was just like, this soldier gets killed, this soldier gets killed.
Yeah, I really only did it with the ones who are kind of memorable.
Right.
Like Mitchell is the one who's really threatening to rape Selena. Clifton is the guy with the hat. Jones is the cook who's a coward.
Right.
Those are the sort of three. And then Mailer is obviously kind of agent of chaos that we unleash on the entire castle.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, so Jones ends up hiding in the kitchen, as I said, because he's a coward. Clifton is down for the count, but then now all of a sudden we have 2 infected running around this castle. But because we have heard shots, we have heard people screaming and so on, Mitchell has been drawn away from Selena, so that leaves them free to try to escape. Unfortunately, Selena and Hannah get separated almost immediately, and we get this great moment where Hannah clings to the back of this mirror in the bathroom.
I loved this.
So good.
I think for the whole scene, I didn't realize she was like hanging off of it until like the guy leaves and we get that shot of her hands. Like, this is in the same ballpark as the Close Calls you were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Where I was like, yes.
Yeah, and I love it. I feel like, unfortunately, because of the visual aesthetic that Boyle has decided on, it's not entirely clear until she steps off of it that she was actually fully hanging on. Like she was suspended in the air, supporting her own weight. I wish we could have highlighted that, or maybe seen her arms straining a little bit more, because it's not a short sequence.
No, it's not. But I mean, also, she's like super, super lucky she didn't get killed here.
Oh, God. Yeah. Like, this is one of those moments where, okay, they can't appear to smell anything or sense anyone breathing because, yeah, she is fine because he doesn't catch sight of her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Jones eventually comes out of this cupboard because he thinks it's all clear. And cue super homicidal Jim. We have already seen him kill the one guy, Davis, who was driving Wes around, but that seemed frantic. That seemed a little bit desperate. This is Jones trying to flee, and he just runs Chicago style. He ran into my bayonet 6 times. Right. So this is Jim basically just saying, okay, I'm going to start really aggressively killing these guys. So he allows Jones to just run right in, like stabs him just in the gut, and Jones is down for the count. But then, okay, so now he's going to go after Mitchell because we want to get to Selena, we want to get to Hannah. So he climbs like out the roof, he abandons that one guy. He's out on the roof. He's out on the turrets and so on. He jumps down through the skylight to get to Mitchell, who is fully on the cusp of raping Selena at this point.
Like he's trying to rip off her shirt.
Yeah. And then Trace, what does Jim do to this guy?
I mean, he just brutalizes him. He bashes his head, like beats the ever-living shit out of him to death, to the point that Selena, watching him, picks up a machete because she thinks that Jim is infected.
Yeah, yeah. And it's one of those things where I remember the first time I watched it, I didn't really clue into the fact that that's what we were doing, right. You don't have to be infected to have this level of rage, to be this kind of scary and threatening to your fellow man. But it plays so well. Like, it's not just cathartic because we really want to see this guy get got, but also it is really scary to see what Jim has become in this moment.
Exactly. And that has been Jim's journey for this entire film. Like, almost disassociating, becoming, he had to go through so much trauma, like Selena has probably already gone through, and why she is the way she is.
Yeah. Okay, so we've had a lot of speculative conversations. Again, I am interested to hear from listeners about this. Is this a cop-out then, that Selena doesn't get this moment of cathartic release, that she doesn't get to go feral or primal and embrace that homicidal urge in herself? Like, I get that it pays off the arc for Jim, but is it a cop-out that we don't allow Selena to get the one-upman on her oppressor, her aggressor?
It's not a cop-out because that's not Selena's journey. Selena's journey is when she doesn't kill Jim, because he even says that was longer than a heartbeat, which is the one refrain she has. I'll do this and I'll kill you in a heartbeat. I'll kill you in a heartbeat. So this is her big moment. She the Selena at the beginning of the film would have killed Jim with no hesitation, and it would have been a mistake. Yeah. So this is supposed to be her moment. And I get it. It's not really as big or eventful as Jim's because Jim is murdering a man.
Right.
But I like that. I like that this is... So this doesn't feel like a cop-out for me.
Okay. I think it makes sense for Jim. I do think it makes sense for Selena's arc, as you've communicated. I just can't help but wonder if this isn't, we're also not going to let the woman have a moment like that.
She's a damsel in distress. The man is saving her. Like, I totally get that, and I wouldn't even shut down if that was your takeaway from this. It's not mine.
Yeah, okay, fair. Okay, so Jim has managed to rescue Selena, and Hannah is okay, albeit still slightly drugged. Yay, probably a good thing, but we now need to leave this castle. So there are infected about, and oh shit, Wes is back. So we think we're going to be able to just escape in the cab, but Wes is actually there waiting for us. There is this one interesting moment I wanted to highlight because I never caught it before. Wes comes into the castle because the doors are just wide open, and he discovers Jones, the shitty cowardly cook's body where Jim had stabbed him in the kitchen, and Jones is still alive, and Wes pats his head and shushes him. Like, it's very comforting. It's, he even says, "What have you done to my boys?" when he shoots Jim,
oh my God,
or "You killed my boys," or something. And it's so fascinating to me, this tenderness that he has for these fuck-ups, these imbeciles, these misogynistic rapists, but he feels compassion to them in their dying moments. Where was that for Selena and Hannah?
I always get so satisfied whenever, but also frustrated, like whenever that line of like, "Oh, you killed all my boys. How could you do this?" It's like, well, look at what you were doing to them. Right. Like, why is that why
was that okay?
Yeah, exactly. And of course, in any movie or TV show where that is something that's happening, we don't have time to address this with this person and like say, excuse me, you're very wrong.
And they're a villain, right? Like, we can accept that Wes is a villain. He is complicated. He's a little bit more interesting than someone like Rapey Mitchell, or stupid cowardly Jones, or dumb hat guy Clifton.
Well, because he gets to talk about his ideology though during the dinner, which I think feeds into a lot of it makes a lot of his choices more believable.
Yeah, like, if anything, if we can pull back, it's so fascinating how, I guess, opportunistic Wes is, whether he's doing this because he's afraid that he'll be overthrown if he doesn't deliver women to this group of dum-dums. Maybe that's part of his rationale, but it definitely feels like he said, "Oh, the end of the world has happened. I can spin this to my own advantage, and I can become a king out here with a bunch of buffoons doing my beck and call. All I gotta do is keep them satiated." But like, he has lied to himself. He is a king who has put himself on the throne. And then he dares to feel sad when someone comes in and says, "No, I took this away from you."
Yeah.
I think that's kind of fascinating. I think we have a lot of real life Wes's in the world, and I could see with more of them coming to this fate. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I could totally see that too.
Thankfully, we have Hannah, who is able to drive because Jim has been shot in the gut at this point. So,
oh boy.
Hannah's in the car, and she just backs that car right up, and then Miller reaches through the glass, grabs Wes, and we just tear this motherfucker apart.
God. And again, this is satisfying, but I would argue not satisfying enough.
It feels like this isn't the cathartic payoff. Like, the one that we needed and wanted to see was Mitchell upstairs, who Jim took care of. And now is the time where it's like, oh, this man who thought he was fully in control? No, he just gets got at the back of the car.
Yeah. I mean, I would have do it like rip his guts out, a la Day of the Dead. The one scene I know from that movie.
Yeah. It is curiously brief. Again, I mean, this could be when we were starting to run out of budget or time or something like that. Or maybe it was just, no, that isn't the kind of movie that we're doing. Because this movie is not really gory ever. Like, we're seeing people get blood splattered on their face, or like the infected have a lot of rage. But apart from that, this isn't intestines.
Yeah, there's no guts anywhere.
No. Okay, so we climb into the car, we get Jim into the car, we get Selena into the car, Wes has been dragged away, he's dead, and now we need to flee, but oh shit, that front gate is firmly locked, so we tell Hannah to ram it, and we do. Trace, what do you think of the freeze frame? Do you like it?
I thought it was kind of weird. It was jarring.
It's very jarring. Yeah, it just feels unexpected because we haven't seen this kind of filmmaking. Mm-hmm. You know, we haven't really talked too much about the way that Danny Boyle shoots this, but it is a lot of handheld. It's very frenetic and so on. So that feels of a kind, but this feels almost music video-esque to me. I don't know. It's just choice.
I don't think, because I don't think we've gotten a freeze frame even as a transition or not a transition in this film, and so it just it is very noticeable. It stands out, and I don't know if it stands out in a good way or a bad way.
Yeah, I mean, as you said though, this is a transition because we've got Jim and Selena pitching forward in the cab as we hit the gate, and then it's 28 days later as Jim wakes up. Yes, he's nude again, and so the coda of this is pretty simple. He basically wakes up. Selena has been sewing a lot of things. We don't fully understand what's going on, but we do get this, plane, rocking in through the countryside. All of the infected look very lethargic. They're not moving. They barely even acknowledge anything is going on.
They're starving. They're starving to death. And that is something that's the reason West was holding Mailer. Like he's going to show me how long it takes for these things to starve to death, which I don't think is something that's ever maybe been addressed in other films, but never really been explored in other films.
No, if only because I think it would undermine a lot of the tension. Oh, well, if all we have to do is wait long enough, these things will basically take care of themselves. And it only takes a couple of months, which again, just reinforces my flabbergasted response to this army unit descending into madness. In the space of 1 month. All you had to do was wait another month and you would have had the world back, you motherfuckers.
Yep. But anyway. But the zombie starving, it reminds me, I can see how that would be anticlimactic for some people, but it reminds me of like the War of the Worlds.
Yeah, and I think, as you said earlier, if the whole point of this movie is that it's not really about the infected, it's more about our response to it, it's like, okay, well, all we have to do is survive this perilous, threatening, violent situation. And then the infected are the infected. Like, we just have to avoid that and then get back to the way things should be.
Well, but in this world, they don't know. They don't know that they're going to die, that the infected will starve in 2 months.
But they had enough wherewithal to try it. Like, let's see.
I think that's the commentary that Garland is putting in here. And to be honest, one of the only things that I don't think is that derivative in his words is because I think he really does it could be seen as unrealistic to the point where it almost borders on satire, not funny satire, but satire, where it's like, wow, look how quickly this group of soldiers devolved into like rape.
Oh yeah. And as I said, with some other movies that I referenced, we see that not infrequently.
Yeah, it's normally not, 4 weeks after the outbreak.
Trace, we have other movies to discuss then, don't we?
I guess that's true. Yeah.
Okay. All this to say, we do have a plane flying around the sky, so yes, let's use Selena's sewing so that we can make a giant hello message that we will spread out across the yard. And we end the movie on a bit of a levity, right? Like, so we have a kind of found family. Whether you want to read that as a bit of queerness, whether you want to read this as kind of heteronormative because it's a man, a woman, and a young child, sure. But this idea that these people had no connection before 2 months ago, and they have come together to form a new kind of family that can work, that can rebuild a sense of community, that can have a laugh when Selena says something like, do you think they saw us this time?
Yeah, exactly. And I like this ending. I mean, it actually is more complete than I remembered it being. I guess because in my mind, I was like, well, it has to lead into 28 weeks later. But this ends actually not demanding a sequel.
No, they clearly did not anticipate that this is going to become a franchise or even have a follow-up. It feels very close-ended. The suggestion is, hypothetically, maybe they stay in this cabin, but they're going to get rescued. They're going to continue living because these infected are just going to die out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's 28 days later.
It's 28 days later. And honestly, I don't think Sandra Bullock would have improved this film. So I guess I'm kind of glad she's not in it.
Ooh, but I would watch a 28 Days Later movie starring Sandra Bullock.
It's called Bird Box.
Actually, there you go. Correct.
We have an audio commentary on that as well, folks.
Yes, and we have an episode on its sequel that I totally forgot existed.
Oh my God, because that is not a good sequel.
It's fine.
If you're going to pick a sequel, watch 28
Weeks later.
Thank you. Weeks.
Yeah. I know. Maybe 28 years later. I do have high expectations for that.
I'm excited. That trailer gets my juices flowing.
Every time. Okay, everyone. Well, before we announce what we're covering next week, some quick housekeeping. If you want to get in touch with us, you can reach us on Blue Sky and Instagram at HorrorQueers. Shoot us an email at horrorqueers@gmail.com. Find us on Letterboxd to keep track of all the films we've covered. If you want to chat with other listeners, please join our Horror Queers Discord. Link is in the show notes. If you have a moment, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And if you want more content, please support the show by becoming a patron at patreon.com/horrorqueers. If you subscribe today, you will get 396 hours. Oh my God, almost 400 hours of Patreon content.
Closing in, yep.
Including this month's new episodes on Hannibal Season 2, Episodes 5 and 6, Fear Street Prom Queen, Bring Her Back, 28 Years Later, and a brand new audio commentary on Final Destination 2, just in time for Final Destination Bloodlines.
A little after the fact, yeah.
It's fine. Good. And even though we're not dropping new content on the requel tier right now, you can still listen to episode-by-episode recaps of The Last of Us Season 2 if you missed them out when we were covering. So go listen to those now.
And folks, we can candidly reveal that we are in discussions about the next show we're going to cover. So that's not a one-off isolated tier. We will be adding new content to it before the end of the year.
But Joe, you hinted that I was calling in a favor next week. And
yes.
I'm curious, what is that favor?
This is not something I ever would have programmed because I have virtually no relationship to this, but I'm gonna take a little walk out on a certain limb that you probably have a childhood relationship to. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie.
Oh my God, yes. And yeah, this is totally, I've been trying to get Joe to let me program this for years.
Whatever. This is an anniversary. We're literally doing it for the anniversary.
We are doing it for the anniversary. But no, truthfully, this did scare me as a kid, and I was a Power Rangers kid. But Joe, I think the queerness on display in this movie is going to be something you're going to have fun with. Specifically the villain, who is just a raging drag queen.
Okay. You know what? I love it. And I love to let you geek out over your childhood faves. So this has worked out well for us in the past with the Scooby-Doo stuff. So, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. You know what? Go Rangers.
It's a 90-minute movie.
You don't have to sell it so hard. It's fine. We're going to cover it regardless.
It's fine. All right, everyone. Until next time, we can cross out 28 Days Later.
Indeed. And cross out Horror Queers.
Your dad, who just eats oats, loves to tell stories. If he ate bunches of oats, maybe he'd have more than 3 of them that he tells over and over. Yes, Dad, what your friend Squeaky did back in '88 is hilarious. But maybe instead of telling us about it again, you could grab a bowl of delicious, nutritious Honey Bunches of Oats. Don't just eat oats, eat bunches of oats. Honey Bunches of Oats.